Hello, YouTube. This is Darth Kilhoun coming to you live with the Dark Council, Episode 8, titled The Patriarch versus Antichrist. Notably, there's been some developments in the news about Ukraine that we wanted to address. More persecutions of the Russian Orthodox Church within the Ukrainian states apparatus. So I brought on two people to weigh in, Cassie08 and the Alt-Monarchist, another fellow YouTuber, Alt-Monarchist. Go check out his channel. So let us begin. Any beginning remarks from the two guests?
No, I'm good.
Alright.
Same.
Okay, so let's just start getting into the article. Sent. Sorry, I should have had this ready. There we go. Share. All right, so I was checking my news feed and I saw this from The Guardian that the Ukrainian parliament voted to ban the Orthodox Church over alleged links with Russia. I'm guessing this is specifically the Russian Orthodox Church within Ukraine that submits to Russian Patriarch. I wanted to do kind of a reaction to this, so I didn't read it prior. And I don't know, I don't really track these things as much. That's why I brought Alt-Monarchist and Cassie on. Any context that Alt-Monarchist or Cassie might want to put on the situation with the Orthodox Church in Ukraine for the audience?
First, that it hasn't passed the second round, so it's not like a law yet, but they're gonna vote a second time, and then Zelensky needs to officially sign off on the law before it's official, you know.
Okay.
Alt, you're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so basically, I also like to mention that that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate is actually it does not fall under Russia's religious jurisdiction at all. It's basically its own independent church. But because of that one title that they have, Moscow Patriarchate, all of a sudden it's falsely associated with being part of the Russian government and being under the control of the Russian Orthodox Church, which is not really the case. But it's also a good excuse for people like Zelensky to get rid of it. So yeah, because Zelensky knows people are not going to look into these into these matters. People just accept information at face value. And so, yeah, so if it says Moscow Patriarchate, or you're definitely under Moscow's control, which is definitely not true.
Okay, yeah, that is good information for the audience, because especially most Americans will not know those fine details of especially the Orthodox Church, since Orthodoxy is such a minority in America. But the Ukrainian parliament gave initial approval on Thursday to a law that would ban the Moscow-linked Ukrainian Orthodox Church after Kiev, still false spelling there, accused it of collaborating with Russia following last year's invasion. The UOC, which is distinct from the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, the OCU, says it no longer aligned with the Russian Orthodox Church and denies the charges leveled at it by Kiev. It said the draft laws would be unconstitutional. Varslav, help, please.
Yaroslav Zhelezniak. Yeah. I don't know if I helped or not.
Yeah, that helped. A member of parliament said on Telegram messaging app that deputies had voted to support the bill in its first reading. It has to be backed in the second reading and approved by the president to go into force, which I'm assuming that the Jew Zelensky would happily sign any bill that would target Christians.
Yeah.
The law would ban the activities of religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence in a state that carries out armed aggression against Ukraine, and such activities would be terminated by count of laws. Another lawmaker, okay, help please. Irana, her
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to mute
Shenko?
myself. But it's Irina Herashenko.
Okay.
Yeah.
Said the vote was historic and described it a first step towards removing Moscow priests from the Ukrainian land. Any commentary either of you would want to give on that particular statement?
Cassie, you want to go first?
I mean, more to what you said, that they're not under the Russian control, which, I mean, the saying Moscow priest is implying that they're under Russian control, while it's just yeah, as you explained it better before.
Yeah, but like yeah, they're using the term Moscow priests from the land. They basically just want their own Kiev Patriarchate, which, by the way, the OCU, it's not really recognized like by any canonical jurisdiction anyway. I mean, like the only people that recognize it are the ones that are part of the EP, but that's it. Like, and I believe the OCA, the American Orthodox Church, I don't think they recognize the OCU, the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, either. So, and the Serbian Orthodox, they don't recognize it. So, yeah. So, like, basically, the OCU, the OCU, by the way, it's a minority in Ukraine. The UOC, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, they're the majority. Like, even the Ukrainian military, a lot of them are UOC. So, yeah, that's just some other, that's just some extra information that I just wanted to get out there, let people know that that the UOC is not Moscow controlled. It's independent, but the OCU, like they originally started off like as schismatics, then the EP just somehow just recognized them for some reason. So yeah, and it's just going against all Orthodox canons. So yeah, but like for the most part, from what I understand, like most Orthodox jurisdictions didn't recognize the OCU anyway.
Okay, that is very valuable information, but I guess another historical parallel and one that happened in the West would be during the reign of President Calles of Mexico and his revolutionary government that he brought into Mexico. It particularly targeted the foreign-born priests of the Roman Catholic Church, of the Roman Rite within Mexico, and several priests were arrested and many killed by the Mexican government that would famously start the Cristero Wars, where it'd be Catholic militias fighting the Mexican government in several.
Is that the one where they made the movie about the Cristo Reyes? Is that the one?
Yes, that is correct. They made a movie about that. It's actually fairly accurate to the events of the war. But yeah, the Cristero Wars, it was a very brutal conflict. And thankfully, President Calles was eventually forced to negotiate and get rid of the anti-clerical laws, which at least saved the Catholic Church within Mexico for several decades after that. But the cartels and the current Mexican government don't help it at all either. But
yeah, well, like basically, like if this does go into effect, this law. So from what I understand, that like they passed it, but it has to be passed like a second time. Is that correct, Cassie?
Yeah, and then Zelensky
so
has to sign it.
Yeah, so basically, once it's fully law, like I wonder, like the Ukrainian soldiers who are basically like a lot of them are UOC, what would be their reaction? Like this could be like a huge risk. Like a lot of them could
Yeah,
literally switch sides too.
like there has already been a lot of surrenders, and I have seen a lot of videos of Ukrainian soldiers saying that like when the war is over, the people in Kiev shouldn't be worried about the Russians. They should be worried about their own soldiers coming back to kill them. But I don't know. Like they have like the officers have very strict discipline on most of their soldiers, and I think that they'll just try to spin it to the soldiers, and I'm not sure if it will actually lead to revolt or something like that.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of rhetoric, especially coming out these later years, especially after the failed offensive with a lot of disgruntled soldiers. I mean, the first thing any regime fears is its own military. That's a very common trope in all of history, literally since the time of Caesar. But the USA said the draft law, one of the several similar bills registered in Parliament, did not comply with the European Convention on Human Rights or Ukraine's constitution, which quite frankly, like this won't really matter. Like the European Convention on Human Rights is essentially just a way to bully internal members of the European Union not to have anti-immigration laws, and we all know that they probably wouldn't get involved with the banning of the UOC.
Yeah, they are probably not even gonna try to get involved in the possible like deportation of Ukrainian men back to Ukraine. Like I doubt that they would put up some resistance, but not that much.
And we all know how constitutions can just be changed because, well, constitutions are pieces of paper. So,
well, the Ukrainians have proven that in 2014.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So let's continue. Describing itself as an independent and separate church, the UOC accused Kiev of trying to pass it off as affiliated with the Russian Orthodox Church and portraying its Ukrainian clergymen and believers as agents of the Russian Federation. Anything want to comment there?
No.
Oh no, keep reading.
All right. Ukrainian authorities and many people in Ukraine had for several years seen the UOC as loyal to Moscow and cracked down on the church after Russia's full-scale invasion in February of 2022. A government commission has ruled that the UOC is still canonically linked to Russia despite the church declaration that it cut ties with the Russian Orthodox Church in May of 2022. The church's second most senior priest, Metropolitan Pavlo, has been notified he is suspected of inciting interreligious hatred and distributing material justifying Russia's aggression. He has denied the accusations. Ukraine's security service said on Thursday 68 criminal cases, including accusations of treason, had been initiated against UOC representatives since Russia's invasion last year. Political analyst Vladimir, or is that like the Ukrainian spelling of Vladimir?
Yeah, so the Ukrainians say Volodymyr, but and Russians say Vladimir. Yeah, but same thing, same name, Vladimir. Yeah, or Voldemort.
Okay. Fesenko,
like Voldemort Zelensky, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense. He's a Jew. He has a massive nose. Well, Voldemort has no nose.
Yeah. And then Fesenko, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Fesenko.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Said a ban on the UOC was unlikely to halt its activities and could be challenged in Ukraine and at the European Court of Human Rights. Fesenko suggested the church could register as a new entity with no reference whatsoever to canonical ties with Russia. this article was amended. Okay. And of course, then they hide it behind a paywall because democracy dies in darkness, guys.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
democracy was never meant to last anyway.
yeah,
True.
it's a joke at their own expense.
Well, I
Isn't that
consider
like the New
democracy a
York Times?
tyrannical system, which is not supposed to meant to last. Like basically, the people will eventually like either revolt or gets like subverted by the people from within. So
Yeah, or for an ethnic group, like in Ukraine. So, yeah, we all are not fans of democracy in this stream.
No,
But
but our sacred democracy, bro.
yes, our sacred democracy has been trampled upon by the filthy orcs or whatever phrase they call us today. But in all seriousness, what like especially I know you alt-monarchists, you spent some time over in the Ukraine. If you'd want to weigh in on like what you think is going to happen, like politically and socially over there, and just overall.
well, I mean, I'm not a big, super experienced geopolitical analyst, but I'm assuming that like I do assume that like there might be some sort of revolts in the Ukrainian military because we've seen like some of the minor little phases of this in the beginning of the Russian-Ukraine war. And plus, on top of that, let's not forget that like back in 2014, originally a lot of Ukrainian soldiers joined the Donbass rebels because they realized, oh, these are not some random terrorists; these are just normal people. So we'll protect them. The government's lying to us, right? And so now you have like basically in January, you have the situation like January of this year, December of 2022, January of this year, February of this year, you've had like this major attack on the Ukrainian Orthodox Church by the Ukrainian government. And at that point, like there were some soldiers who have spoken out, wondering, wait, who are we fighting for? Like, why are we fighting the Russians again? Like, are we sure they're the bad guys, right? Because they're not the ones attacking our churches, right? It's their own government that we're protecting, right? And then now you see this law being passed, right? And if it does go into effect, well, like this could maybe start some sort of a civil war within the Ukrainian military. And I'm pretty sure that the Ukrainian pagans, known as Azov Battalion, because they have a lot of neo pagans in there, and the
And
Idar, therefore,
Jews,
that's true too. Yes,
surprisingly. Like
yes.
this. Yeah.
Well, like I conflate them with pagans, anyways. Like, but
Same
yeah,
ballpark.
Idar is full of neo pagans. So is the Tornado Battalion. Yeah, and so like those guys, yes, they'll probably continue fighting for Ukraine because because they're not Christians. But I do predict that it's possible that like more people will come out in the streets to like demand that Zelensky go because they have an election coming up, I believe, in May 2024. And so will they have this election? We don't know. And this law could actually like destroy like Zelensky. On top of that, before the Russian invasion in 2022, like Zelensky's political party, I believe, had like 11% popularity. That's before the Russian invasion, and so like he's already been losing popularity during this whole war. And now you have this attack in the church. Well, like this might potentially have some riots in some cities. This could have some like rebellions in the Ukrainian military. So yeah, those are my predictions, but we'll see what happens. So I could be wrong about everything that I just said right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, I could have swore I heard somewhere that Zelensky actually like postponed elections until the end of the war, like an indefinite postponement until the end.
But I
Which I
think
mean,
he said he would have them on time. I think he changed his mind.
mm,
But
yeah,
I got to say about the rebellion stuff, like I think that there will be a lot more desertions, like the amount of desertions have already increased, but I doubt that there would be a real like internal like large scale conflict within the military, because most of the higher ups aren't, they are very pro war, and they aren't leaning to the Russian side. And the officer class, like what I've seen, they they are very willing to just shoot their own men if they don't attack, or if they refuse to fight or something like that. So like I think it's very possible that there will be a lot of small scale incidents, but I doubt that they would be able to organize a larger front against the Zelensky regime.
Yeah, and I so this is like the thing about like military officers, like they're always selected for political loyalty, or at least the government always tries to make sure that their officers in particular are always the most politically loyal. That's why the United States put in the requirement for a bachelor's degree, because most of the people that get bachelor's degrees typically align with the liberal ideology and would back the US state. And I could easily see the Ukrainian government doing the same, or possibly putting, let's just say, ethnic minorities that wouldn't care about the average Slavic Ukrainian in charge of these men, which I know that has happened a lot. There's a disproportional amount of Jews and particularly Western Ukrainians that are pro-war as officers.
Well, like speaking of certain ethnic minorities, I believe I think he's like the new commander in chief of the Ukrainian military, or he's in
Oh
charge of
yeah,
the yeah. Like,
Minister of
I think you know
Defense,
what I'm
I
talking
think.
about.
Yeah,
But
I
I
love
think he's
his
like Minister of
videos.
Defense, Minister of Defense, Minister of War. But like he's but you can just tell by his face. He's just you're like, okay, I know what you are. You're definitely not Slavic at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like,
let me
don't you
find a
love
picture
his
of this guy.
videos? He's just such a cutie in his videos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like his
but
dance moves.
like the reason why I just assumed there might be some sort of rebellions, because in 2014 a lot of Ukrainian soldiers had no problem switching sides, especially in Crimea. Like in
Yeah,
Crimea, like a majority of the military that were stationed in Crimea, because we must not forget, like there were a lot of Ukrainian military bases, and like most of them, like they did not just like surrender, they just switched sides. And then like the ones who didn't switch sides, they were put on buses and they were let go. Like they said, okay, go back to Ukraine. The majority of Ukrainian soldiers stationed in Crimea had no problem switching sides. And then Ukrainian soldiers from all over Ukraine, when they were sent to Donbass, they would switch sides. And the rebels had conversations with Ukrainian military personnel, and a lot of officers they did ask, "Hey, is Russia actually going to invade?" And this is 2014, so this is when Russia probably could have invaded and should have invaded, but like they were 8 years too late on that part. But anyways, many Ukrainian officers they did ask, like the rebel leaders in the Donbass, they asked them, "Hey guys, is Russia going to like invade? Because once they invade, we'll switch sides." And like the rebels are like, "Well, no, like we don't know. Like Russia's not telling us their plans. We don't know what Russia wants to do." And so then of course, 8 years later, like yeah. So again, I don't know. Like I'm simply just going off of what I've like remember happening in 2014 and 2015, and actually in 2015. There was no, sorry, I think it's 2016. There actually was a major shift. There was
I
like a
found him, by
Ukraine.
the way.
Yeah,
Yep.
that guy. Yeah, that's the guy. But yes, but I
His
remember
name
back.
is Rustem Umarov. There we go.
Yeah,
But there are
Rustem
much more
Umarov. Yeah,
flattering pictures of him, you know.
yeah, like that picture's not that bad. I've seen like worse pictures of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But if we remember, like back in 2015, 2016, like there actually was an incident where like the assistant to the minister of defense, he and his staff, they actually switched sides. They actually like left Kiev. They got some vehicles. They went to the front lines, like to visit the troops apparently. And then like this general and his staff, like a bunch of captains and lieutenants, they actually switched sides. Like it was like somewhere in 2015, 2016, around that time. And for some reason, the Ukrainian media, like they mentioned it and they like covered the story up. And in the West, there's silence about that part. So like that's why I'm kind of hopeful that like if this law passes, that there might be like a repeat, but on steroids of the same situation. So I don't know.
Might be the straw that breaks the camel's back with the men of the Ukrainian army, essentially. That's what you're saying. And I found the worst picture
yeah.
of this guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
but-
found. I sent it to you, but
Yeah.
yeah,
like
I have to say
that
that
guy.
I think it would be harder to desert to the other side because like there's much more established front lines. Like if they contact the Russians, of course the Russians won't shoot them when they're trying to run over, because we know that the Russians have sent radio, like have sent out pamphlets with information on how to contact them via radio. But I think that it would be very hard for a large unit to desert without them getting targeted by their own artillery or drone forces, because at a large scale it just has to leak out.
Well, we should just pray that the artillery are also on their side too. So,
Yeah.
Let us pray that they are particularly unlucky and bad at aiming.
Yeah. And I think it would be much easier if for that to happen if Russia were to open up a new front, or if they were to launch a major offensive in the north, because in the Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia area, it's just too well fortified. Like in the Kharkov or Kharkov or however you say it, like in that area, it's much less defended and it's much easier to do large to force large surrenders or desertions.
And to answer this guy, it's like obviously this is about the war. So come on, YouTube comments, be a bit smarter.
Well, what's interesting is that about this law being passed, Zelensky is not passing it. Like he's totally passing it. Well, not Zelensky, but the Duma. Sorry, not the Duma. The Verkhovna Rada. So the Verkhovna Rada basically they're passing this law like at a very inconvenient time, especially when the whole world is now focusing on the Middle East right now, on that situation, because that situation is a lot more important to the American conservative taxpayers. And so like so like on top of that, the US is like basically not really interested in helping Ukraine that much anymore. Because the Middle East is now a huge priority, more than Ukraine will ever be. And so Zelensky's passing this sorry, not Zelensky, but the Verkhovna Rada, they're passing this law, and if Zelensky signs it like this, as you mentioned before, Darth Calhoun, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because like the U.S. is basically like saying, yeah, we're not going to like help you out that much anymore, because we care more about our greatest ally in the Middle East. So yeah, so like the Ukrainian government is passing this law at a very, very inconvenient time for them.
No, I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's a very convenient time, because now nobody will be focusing on them, so they can do all their misdeeds now and make it harder for a future Russian occupation of new regions. So, like, I think arresting the ones that would potentially, the ones that might collaborate is a good strategy. The problem is just if the Russians launch an offensive like very shortly after they do this, then the morale will be too low for them to, like, if the Russians were to launch a major offensive, I think that a lot of units wouldn't fight, as you said, like they would desert to the other side. So I think it's good to do it as quickly as possible. Maybe they should have done it even earlier. And I think that the situation in the Middle East will probably be over a lot faster than the situation in Ukraine, because like there aren't any real countries that could stop Israel and the United States. Like if the like who would actually intervene? Like the Egyptians, maybe, but like Hezbollah and Saudi Arabia is very doubtful that they would intervene, and all of their neighbors are very occupied with other stuff.
Yeah, I'm quite doubtful that the war might escalate. Besides for Hezbollah possibly getting involved in that region, and also like the United States, there's no like this is what I see from the U.S. forces right now. There's no real morale within the ranks of the U.S. military to do another foreign war, a long-term foreign war, like what would happen if America intervened in this conflict in the Middle East again. Um, I think there's just too much bad blood, and frankly, like the internet has also made it harder for these people to justify foreign wars, at least even in the minds of American service members that aren't quite even aligned with the interests of Washington at this point. Um, and but this also like goes to show you like the politicians in Washington, like they'll like all day position themselves as like we're trying to defend like they were trying to defend like quote unquote like the Christian nation of Ukraine. Like some conservatives in America tried to justify the aid to Ukraine as that, but then they
But
immediately turned their
they
back
don't
on them.
consider Orthodox to be Christians anyways. So.
Yeah, a lot of them don't because a lot of them are Protestant.
Yeah,
Protestants are quite the most heretical of all Christian sects. I would even wager they're as bad as the early first century heresies. Um, but the as soon as like America's quote unquote greatest ally, our greatest ally that hates Christians, gets attacked, they turn their back on the Christians in Ukraine. And 2 weeks ago, the American politicians didn't lift a finger for the Armenians when they were ethnically cleansed from Novaro-Karabakh. Like, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
yeah, Nagorno-Karabakh. Yeah, but the thing is, Azerbaijan is supported by Israel. Like
Yeah,
they,
that too.
yeah, they sell weapons to Azerbaijan. And surprisingly, I think that Belarus also has sold weapons to them. I'm not sure. Do you know, Walt?
I'm not aware of that. I just would not be surprised because well, let's not forget that they're all neighbors over there too. So like yeah, um, but Azerbaijan is also supported by Turkey also, and Turkey
Yeah,
is a NATO ally. So like the U.S. Government will be kind of like more lax in the whole Nagorno-Karabakh situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So yeah.
Yeah, and this Sabiv guy, he brings up a good point that literally most of the cabinet are ethnically Jewish as well. I think the the state secretary, like he was particularly going mad when when Hamas did their attack into Israel. Um, but also something that I saw recently was the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem also even offered to give himself as a hostage to Hamas to for them to release some prisoners in exchange. So, but of course, like the United States would never co-sign this. No, I don't ever think like an American Protestant would ever do the same thing, ever offer themselves in exchange for prisoners of a Muslim militia. So, in fact,
Well,
I'm
let's
looking
not
at an
forget that
article about that.
Hamas was created and sponsored by the Israeli government. So
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. Um, I mean, at least half. What is he saying? At least half of the Jewish in visiting the Wall of Jerusalem. At least half are. Oh yeah, he's talking about our American elites. How they will go and pay their respect to their overlords by going and praying at the Wailing Wall. A very common trope of American politicians and our elites, like Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson not too long ago as well.
I just got to say that about Armenia, that a lot of people think that Armenia is completely irrelevant, while I would actually argue that Armenia is extremely relevant in the Middle East area, because if they take that, if Armenia falls to the west, then Russia would be almost completely cut off from Iran and and Syria, and like with Armenia, it would be possible to launch offensives in Georgia and Azerbaijan to make a path for Iran and
Well,
Russia to.
that's what they're already cozying up to Azerbaijan already, because like
Yeah,
basically, yeah. And on top of that, uh, to mention like Armenia, like let's not forget that the Armenian president, like before the whole incident about with Azerbaijan attacking Armenia, like not even the recent one, but the one that was what in 2020.
yeah,
Um, yes. So prior to that, like in 2019, the Armenian president, the Armenian government, and like they're promoting like basically like Russophobia. They're promoting like anti-Russian hatred, and so a lot of the youth were saying, "Yeah, Russia, get your base out of our country, blah blah blah. We don't need you, Russia, right?" And the Armenian president was also encouraging like that type of attitude, like
yeah,
and then all of a sudden, when Azerbaijan attacks Armenia, oh hey Russia, you got to fulfill your obligations, and Russia's like, well, I guess we signed the paper, but like who needs an ally like this? Like who needs an ally like you who's constantly talking crap about us, and then like when you're attacked, you cry for help, right? So like people get mad that Russia did things halfway, but like again, like Russia's thinking, well, like I mean, like if they don't really like us, why should we help them? And so
Mhm.
I mean, like, so that's what Russia was doing, like some minimal efforts back in 2020. But like, yeah. So I think the recent Nagorno-Karabakh situation, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think like the Armenian president is kind of like just giving up on that whole situation, and it's because the Armenian president himself, in reality, he actually wants to become part of NATO. Like American troops have been seen in Armenia already, right? So it could be possible that the Armenian government wants to transition from like being like a Russian ally to a NATO ally, and so like it's possible that the whole Nagorno-Karabakh situation could just like be ended with, okay, Azerbaijan take it and Armenia will get NATO membership. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go and sign a pact with the devil, it always has a cost, and screwing over your own people is that cost of joining the devil of NATO. So, which I would agree, but also like this is a spiritual war too. Like Armenia is literally the oldest Christian nation. It was the first Christian nation to convert. I believe it was the second century, if I'm right, with the dates. Anyone know more about the exact date? But it is the first
So
Christian nation.
basically, I think it was only like a couple years before Saint Constantine like had the battle, like the Battle of Milvian Bridge in like 312 AD,
yeah,
and
Yes.
I think the Armenians were probably like in 300 AD when they officially, like the government officially converted. So I think that's when it happened. And then about 10 or 12 years later, the Roman Empire, you know, starts to slowly convert to Christianity as well.
Yeah. Which that's good context for the audience. But the fact that like not only like Russia effectively abandoned Armenia because Armenia was positioning itself against Russia, but also the fact that these quote unquote Western Christians, these Protestants, like say, oh, they support Christianity, and then they turn their back on the oldest Christian nation and an entire region of this battered people that had been through several genocides throughout history, have had literally most of their lands taken. Like Armenia used to be a much larger kingdom when it first converted to Christianity.
yeah.
And
Armenia and the two Gorillion.
I mean, but that's 2 grillion people I actually care about.
Yeah.
More. And let's remember the Azerbaijanis. They are Turkic. Like they are the same. They are effectively the same ethnic group that genocided the Armenians a century ago under the
Well,
Ottoman Empire.
Azerbaijan used to be northern Persia too, so
That as well.
And
yeah.
the
So
thing you said
so
about
Iran has their own interests with Azerbaijan because Iran's saying, well, that was our territory, you know. So like Turkey, what are you doing? You know, like trying to like get involved in our geopolitical sphere right here. So
Dr.
yeah,
Kulun, the thing you said about
yeah. So like for example, you assume
oh,
that Turkey was sorry.
oh no, it's just I mean you can continue. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, well, I meant to say that like it's just kind of weird how like two Muslim countries, Turkey and Iran, like basically they're not getting along with each other, and it's because of Azerbaijan. It's because Turkey is trying to have influence over Turkey's trying to have influence over Azerbaijan because Azerbaijan, the whole territory was Turkish. Like the Turks controlled all of that. Like, and the Turks view Azerbaijan as their territory. And what's interesting is that my dad, he grew up not grew up, but like when he was a kid, he used to live in the Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan, and so he's telling me that like modern like Azerbaijan, it does not really sound the same as the Azerbaijan that he spoke. Like the Azeri language, like he says it like and like he says become very Turkic. It's no longer the Azeri that he spoke when he was a child. And Iran basically is, like it doesn't like the fact that Turkey is trying to get what they consider to be their territory. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing you said about how the very like Christian Protestants that now are abandoning Armenia, like they really don't seem to care at all. I haven't seen a single like conservative commentator talk about destruction of several or like several churches, and I've seen a lot of videos posted by Azerbaijani soldiers where they just go into churches and just start shooting and destroying everything inside. So I haven't seen a single conservative-based red-pilled commentator say anything about that.
Yeah, and I mean it reveals their actual interests, like who they actually care about. They don't care about preserving Christianity in any sense, or else they would be going to bat. They would be banging the war drums to go to war with Azerbaijan for what they've done. But no, they will never lift a finger. And it's just more sad than anything. It's sad that the oldest Christian people in the world are battered around like an abused housewife. um, and they've been expelled out of their nation several times throughout history. They were forcibly subjugated by the Persian Shahs, and they have just endured for 2 millennia, effectively, um, staying devoted to Christ and his kingdom. And they're still spat upon to this day,
Yeah,
even by their fellow Christians, in big air quotes.
Yeah, well, that's why like I consider like the president of Romania and the youth that supports him.
Armenia.
Yeah,
It sounded like you said Romania. So
sorry, Armenia, yes. But the president of Armenia, that's why I consider him to be a traitor to Armenian history and a traitor to Armenian people. And the youth who basically scream, "Hey, Russia, get your base out of here!" Like I consider all them traitors to their own people. Like they forget, like like they forget who basically saw them being genocided by the Turks. It was the Russians. Like the Russians basically saved as many as they could from the Turks. And today a lot of the Armenians, like they're basically being brainwashed by ideas of democracy, ideas of well, Putin's bad because he's an evil dictator, blah blah blah. So you don't want to be like Putin. You want to be like the West. You want to have democracy, right? And so like and that's why I believe that like the president of Armenia is willing to sign a deal with the devil to just hand over Nagorno-Karabakh to the Azeris and just forget that whole situation and just to get some kind of a NATO friendship. And like yeah, so I consider like the president of Armenia to be a traitor to Armenia and to the memory of the of Armenian history.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the
I
only
mean,
one that really can save the Armenian people is Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, since that's at least what the Palestinians, they're at least the people the Palestinians believe will save them. Have you seen the
yeah.
rallies with the Kim Jong-un portraits?
I think that I can imagine it, and it looks funny. But this is why, like, are either you familiar with Dante?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, are you talking about like the Dante's Inferno? Sorry.
Yeah, in particular, like and we all
Yeah.
have to remember what the last circle of hell is reserved for. It's reserved for traitors, and
Oh, okay.
effectively, anybody who betrays their own kind, betrays their own people, and betrays their fellow Christians, like that is where where they were sent. That's where the traitors were sent. That's where Judas was sent, and several pontiffs, according to Dante, and a lot of different traitors of history. So, I mean, in this life, it is a tragedy, but hopefully in the next life there will be justice for these traitors to our people. In all honesty, and that's all we can pray for. But I think when it comes to Armenia, like they've also been fighting, like this is essentially what I consider like a continuation of the Muslim conquests, like what we saw 2 weeks in Armenia. This is the continuing advance of the Mohammedan hordes against the kingdom of Christ, inch by inch, mile by mile, as they've done for the centuries. And just everybody turns a blind eye to it because no one cares.
Yeah.
Well, let's not
Wait.
forget who's sponsoring these Muslim hordes too.
Mm-hmm.
Där är vi goda. But Darth Kiloon. Another example of that is also in Kosovo with Serbia, how a lot of Christian conservatives think that it's good what they did in Serbia, even though they just like greatly bolster the Muslim countries in Europe and diminished one of the few more real Christian countries in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm not counting Sweden or like Germany as Christian countries, not England either.
Well, yeah, and this was, I mean, this is fundamentally like a continuation of like kind of the World War II narrative because like what nations did in particular like the UK support? Oh, they supported Tito and his partisans. They didn't support the Yugoslav monarchy when they were in exile. In fact, they just backstabbed them. The Allies never cared about Christian virtue or anything during that war, and the same powers that sponsored Tito then came back to support the Muslims against the Serbs in both Kosovo and Bosnia, and kill their fellow Christians for the advantage of the Muslims.
Yeah, like the Brits were the bad guys ever since in the year 1900.
Well, there's
Or,
a book called "The English Are They Human?"
and
The
that's a very
English
good
aren't human.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't want to offend any Angloids in here.
No, I don't think any of us are
Like,
Angloids in here.
yeah, like I'm definitely not an Angloid. So, if you notice, like by the way, you mentioned the West, like a lot of Western powers, they don't care about Christians. Let's say, for example, here's another example. And also the Angloids, they were involved in this. In 1878, like Russian troops were literally right outside of Constantinople, all they had to do was like get on some pontoons and bridges and just, or some pontoons and boats and like cross over to Constantinople, just take it, right? And then all of a sudden, like the British fleet came on time. The British fleet just arrived right there, and the Russians had to come back down because they're thinking, okay, fine, we're not going to go to war with England, but like Russians were literally outside of Constantinople, outside of Istanbul. And you would think, hey, like these are Christians. Yes, they're Orthodox, but still they're Christians. These are not Muslims. Plus, a historic Christian city be finally liberated, right? And the Ottoman Empire could be finally destroyed, right? And what did the British do? Oh, let's just save the Ottoman Empire, right? And like you said, like the same people who like stabbed Christians in the back in the past, they're stabbing Christians in the back today.
Yeah, and in particular, I'm guessing you're referencing the Crimean War and the events of that, where the British and French.
No, the Crimean War was in the 1850s. And by the way, the Crimean War, it did not just happen in Crimea; it happened in other parts of the world as well. But yeah. But I was referring to like the Russo-Turkish War of 1876 through 1878, where the Russians were like basically destroying the Turks, and they basically liberated the Bulgarians. They liberated like basically the Slavs from Turkish rule, and then then the British just show up last minute to save the Muslims. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you look historically, it's like Russia before the Bolsheviks was one of the few last defenders of Christendom in Europe. Like it was the Russians, the Austrians most of the time until the Austrians didn't support Russia in the Crimean War, which that was a failed diplomatic move on their part. 1848, Russia literally sent troops into Hungary to put down the liberal revolutionaries to support the Habsburgs. And generally, like just the defenders of Christendom, and in the 20th century, in the 19th and 20th century, like Napoleon and revolutionary France would not have been defeated without Tsar Alexander. Like he is the reason why Europe did not fall under the continental system.
Well, like a lot of people forget that Tsar Alexander created the what's it called, the Holy Union, right? Or the
Holy
Sacred
League
Union,
or
where
something.
it was an alliance between Christian countries. Yeah, something like that. I think it's called the Holy Union, probably. But basically, it was an alliance with Christian nations, and that included Russia and I think Austria. I don't know if
Prussia
was part of that. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure Austria was definitely part of that union.
Yeah, and it's just sad, and like the Anglos were always like the problem child. They're always sowing division, sowing discord, and they supported every revolutionary movement in Europe that they could, essentially for the GDP, because fundamentally the Anglos aren't Christian. They might like go to church and act Christian, but they always act in the interest of the dollar. They never care about Christ and his kingdom.
Yeah. But when I said that the Brits were the bad guys ever since the year 1900, I changed my mind. They've always been the bad guys. Like, is there a single war where they were the good guys? Except for like maybe some colonial war.
Well, the only time I consider them the good guys is basically the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Yeah. that was the last time they were the good guys. I would also somebody saying the First Crusade. I'm actually technically it's the Third Crusade with Richard the Lionheart. I mean, literally like bankrupted England to try to retake the Holy Land from Muslims. So
yeah, but that's not the Brits, that's the English.
Yeah, before Britain, but still, like I get part of Britain, the English bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all in agreement. The American Revolution, the Brits were the good guys, like for the last time in history.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Like now, when it comes to the French and Indian War, I probably support the French. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it literally was like the apostolic powers of France, Austria and Russia against the Protestants of Prussia and Britain. So I probably, yeah.
Wait, I just realized another point to you saying that they always supported revolutions and stuff. They almost were the good guys in the American Civil War.
Yeah, they were almost.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that, like, the American Civil War, it's two Protestant groups fighting each other, but one Protestant group still was more based than the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and like that was the only time when the American Civil War is the only time when Russians were not based. Unfortunately, the English and the French, they supported the South. Yeah. So it was that like and it's not heresy to say this because he was not a saint. Alexander II, that horrible Tsar, he decided, hey, I freed the serfs, so therefore the Union, they want to free the slaves, they're probably good guys. Yeah, so it's because of him. It's because of him the French and the British did not send troops to the South to help the Confederates defeat the Yankees. So
it was like very stupid. He thought that the American slaves and the Slavic serfs were the same thing. This proves that he was kind of retarded.
Yeah, he also reneged on Tsarina Catherine's agreement with the Germans that migrated into Russia. He reneged on the agreement that they wouldn't have to serve their conscription in the Russian army for settling in the Volga and the Black Sea and those areas. And actually, that's like the story of my family's migration to the United States was they stabbed us in the back. So
you guys are German Russians or Russian Germans?
Crimean Germans specifically.
Yeah. So not to go completely off topic, there's an interesting documentary if you could find it on YouTube someday. Check it out. It's about a German from Russia who migrated through Siberia into Alaska, and from Alaska into Minnesota and North Dakota, and they still exist today. Like this community of people who speak 3 languages. Obviously English because they're in America now, but they still speak German and Russian today. It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you go down to some towns like in North Dakota to this day, which I have some family in, they still speak primarily German, and then of course English as their secondary language, and some of them, especially more like the boomers and silent generation, will still speak a bit of Russian. But yeah, I know of those communities very, very closely. But yeah, there's also North Dakota State University is even though they're pretty cringe on a lot of their social issues, they do have an entire department dedicated to the Germans from Russia history. So I guess if any of you want to study as part of your history major, the Germans from Russia, attend North Dakota State. My shilling for one department at that university. But
I don't know. I think with this current age, I think that's information that's basically just good for YouTube. I don't know if you want to spend so much time studying at university and then okay, so are you gonna get hired somewhere with all this knowledge now? But a specific kind of group of people, is some university going to hire you as a professor to teach that? I don't know.
If you become a professor at North Dakota State after studying there, or if you just become an Army officer because you just need a degree to become one. I mean, that's what most history majors do anyway. So, but we've gotten wildly off topic. But it's been a great digression.
Yeah. Wait, I just got to say something that is to our original topic. That the SPU, they again, I kind of doubt they would let a large scale revolt happen in the Ukrainian army. They're already trying to spin the Ukrainian Orthodox Church situation to be a problem with accusing them of CP and stuff like that.
Well, speaking of the Ukrainian SBU, the Ukrainian Security Services, right? The SBU is simply it's basically the KGB of Ukraine. So
Yeah.
basically, when Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, each Soviet republic had their own branch of the KGB, and this was the Ukrainian branch of the KGB. And then when they became independent, the KGB office basically just changed their name to SBU. So.
Yes. And I know that the KGB have used pornographic material to get their will through, so I doubt that they would have a problem with planting CP in the churches or something like that.
Well, like basically, if the KGB wanted to discredit somebody, yeah, they would just throw in some porn, like they'll throw in some porn in someone's locker or something, and they're like, "Oh, this is illegal. You're under arrest and you're discredited." So yeah, I'm not surprised the SBU does something similar.
Yeah, who was that? I'm trying to think of that Russian intelligence minister during the Tsar's period who took active measures, as he called it, where he would send agents to infiltrate anti-Tsarist groups and to actually have them commit terrorist attacks to discredit these groups. I'm trying to remember his name. He was in the show Fall of Eagles.
Okay.
Yeah. If any of you are aware of the show Fall
unfortunately,
of Eagles,
I did not study like in depth the secret services of the Russian Empire. Like I was more interested in the KGB. So.
Well, where does the KGB get its tactics?
Well, actually, just to be fair, the KGB gets their tactics from a Polish aristocrat. So, yeah, that's a different topic too. But yeah,
I mean, they got a lot of tactics from a lot of different places, but they did get some, at least from the old Tsarist secret police. But yeah, there was a guy. I'd have to look it up later, but he appears in the BBC dramatization called Fall of Eagles, where it's literally just about the Hohenzollern, Habsburg, and Romanov monarchies before their fall, and like show like the era actually pretty faithfully. I would say it's a pretty good show. I'd recommend for everyone. It's like one of the few good British shows about that era.
I just have to ask you, do you like Jackson Hinkle?
Yes. So I'll be honest. I like his geopolitical takes. Let's say that. I don't agree with his with some of his history on Russia, and I think I know who's feeding him this misinformation. But like I would say it's probably his dumb girlfriend. But like, but he's not a bad guy. Jackson Hinkle, he's honest, he's sincere, he's genuine, and he speaks the truth about what's going on in Ukraine. He speaks the truth about what's going on in that whole region, and that's why YouTube banned him recently. That's why he's gone.
Oh, did they?
And he debated Piers Morgan, and I did a live stream about this too. I was basically explaining to people how Piers Morgan lost to Jackson Hinkle in that debate, and Piers Morgan, he was a coward. He brought like a secondary guy to back him up, some kind of ethnic minority that claims to be Russian, if you know what I mean. Konstantin Kissin, right?
Yeah.
And so
like Lenin.
yes, so I'm not a fan of Jackson Hinkle's version of history regarding 1917. If you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, and he's very based.
But Jackson, he's correct.
Orthodox communism.
But he's correct on the current. But he's correct on the current geopolitical situation. I mean,
yeah.
So I'm not going to dismiss the guy, because he has some faulty, cringe views.
Followed him before he got banned. I like him, but it's just so goofy when he talks about Christian communism and stuff like that.
Well, he started that MAGA communism movement.
Yeah, which is so based, kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of based, it's hard to tell what it is. But yes, but he's right about Ukraine. He's one of the few people in America that just speaks the the truth about Ukraine. I even watched Jimmy Dore because, like, who else is going to tell us the truth about what's going on in Ukraine, about the corruption that's going on over there, and like everything. And so, like, yeah, sometimes unfortunately I have to listen to some cringe lefties to kind of hear the truth about.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Cassie, would you like to elaborate on this photo?
Yeah, the brave Palestinians are marching, and they're asking for support from our glorious supreme leader Kim Jong-un, and they kind of cringe Vladimir Putin, who just isn't as based as Kim Jong-un. Like,
Okay. Okay.
Well, to be fair, the Kim dynasty, they're actual dynasty. I'm just saying we're monarchists. So, I'm just saying,
yeah.
where are Putin's sons? Where is his dynasty?
I think he only has daughters.
So yes,
Yeah,
so
that's
just
kinda
be
cringe,
fair,
like-
yes. In that regard, the Kim family, yes, they are more based than Putin.
Yeah, I want the Lukashenko family to take over. Like, his son is kind of being prepped to become the new leader, and he looks like a real Chad. He looks like, you know, Frederick. What's his name? Kaiser Wilhelm's dad.
Frederick
Not Frederick
Oh.
the Great. Frederick the Great was a disgusting faggot, and I hate him.
Frederick not so great.
Yeah, but yeah, like Kaiser Wilhelm's dad, Kaiser Wilhelm II's dad, was also kind of gay, but he looked really cool, and I think that Lukashenko's son will also look very cool, but he might be a better leader.
Okay, and so so basically, what you're saying is that Lukashenko's son will create the first Belarusian empire.
Yes, or just Russian Empire, because Belarus is just Russia.
True. So basically, yeah, he just revived the Russian Empire, and then finally actually just conquer Ukraine.
Yeah, he should just marry a Romanov and create create a new dynasty.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Romanovs, basically, and this still about Ukraine too. One of the descendants of the Romanovs, like on the maternal side, so he has like no legal claim, but his last name is Doroshin. I forgot his first name. He is Orthodox, and he's from France, and he fought in the Donbass for 1 year. Then he left the Donbass, and then when Russia invaded Ukraine, he returned to like fight on the Russian side. And so, like, who knows? Like, maybe we'll see like basically the Doroshin dynasty just create like this new empire. So
yes. Wait, Darth Killen, did you show the first photo I sent you?
No, because I'm on YouTube and I don't want to be demonetized.
Yeah, but that's such a brave Ukrainian defense minister.
For the context of the audience, he sent me an image of the current defense minister of Ukraine during 8 years ago, during a very particular embarrassing scene where he's shirtless and other things.
Oh wow, that's just. But then again, we should not be surprised this is happening in Ukraine, because Ukraine has basically become godless the moment they started to attack Ukrainian Orthodox churches, and they've been attacking the churches from 2014, and not just in the Donbass, in Western Ukraine, Central Ukraine, Southern Ukraine, Northern Ukraine. It was just like let's say, like, it wasn't like so popular to do this, but like it would just happen once in a while here and there, and actual churches will be seized, priests will get beat up, and a lot of churches will be burnt down. But it kind of wasn't like so so well known, but like videos of this exist, and I remember watching this stuff in 2018, 2019, and then like all of a sudden, like, Russia just invades, and so they just find a reason to attack these churches. And so Ukraine, like, basically, here's the thing: Ukraine is a secular government, just like Russia is a secular government, right? But Russia is not attacking Orthodox churches; Ukraine is. And so basically, like, God is literally going to like just punish the Ukrainian government for what they've done in 2014, 2015, 2016, and up until now. And so, like Ukraine, instead of just like ending the war in Donbass and trying to like find some reconciliation, instead of just repenting of their sins, they're just attacking the church. And so God is giving them these weird people to rule over them. You have a ethnic president. You have an ethnic defense minister, and on top of that, like and plus you mentioned, this
Their prime
defense
minister
minister was doing
too.
a weird. Well, you mentioned that the defense minister is doing some weird stuff. It's not a surprise because I remember watching like this video. So it did not show everything. Thank God, it did not show everything, but it was clearly obvious what was going on in the video. And as Ukrainian soldiers are being forced to be dragged off to war, a Ukrainian oligarch is having a good time somewhere like in Odessa, and some young woman is like satisfying him like orally on the balcony, and people are on the bottom just recording, saying, "Hey, look, this oligarch!" Like you have young soldiers going to die for this ethnic president, for his government, and then you have this oligarch, and he's just like showing the Ukrainian people, "This is what I could do. I'm better than you guys. You guys are scum." That's what this Ukrainian oligarch is showing by having this indecent act, this very evil act on the balcony with this young woman, is because he just wants to show people that they are scum. They're beneath him, and so they should go to war against Russia to die for him, for this oligarch. And so God is punishing Ukraine right now. And so basically, so if we see so we could see that Zelensky's inviting what's her name, Maria Abramovich, right? This satanic woman, this Satanist woman, and I believe she had ties with a certain what's his name, Jeffrey Epstein. So she had ties with this guy, and then she had ties with the Clinton family, and she's satanic. She's a Satanist. She creates satanic art, and then all of a sudden, like Zelensky wants her to like kind of be like a spokesperson, like or representative of Ukraine. So yes. So you see these people are going insane, and God is punishing them with this insanity they're committing right now. And so this law that they're going to pass, or that they're attempting to pass, if they pass it, I also believe God will definitely send more punishment upon them.
Yes, and I agree. But let's introduce our new guest, American Elitist, or AE. Welcome to the stream.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes,
so what are we discussing? I just hopped into the stream.
The topic of this stream was the fact that currently the Ukrainian parliament is attempting to ban the Ukrainian Orthodox Church officially through legislation, and most likely it's going to pass, and Zelensky would probably be more than happy to sign that law into action.
Well, that wouldn't shock me, considering this is the same person, after all, who said that we're going to create a new Israel here in Ukraine, so it wouldn't shock me from this type of person.
So based.
If it was Israeli policies, but for the Ukrainian people, then it'd be based. But
I mean,
he doesn't mean it that way.
I was going to say Russia does have their own little Israel.
That are the Jewish autonomous oblast all the way in the Far East.
Yeah.
But to be fair, from what I understand, Jews are also a minority there. Like I believe the majority there are ethnic Russians, and so even there in a Jewish land, the Jews are the minorities there.
But like, is that kind of like the Madagascar thing? Just sending them so far away that they can't do anything.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah,
or just treat them the way they treat Palestinians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of funny because, like, do you see he was snubbed by Bibi Netanyahu after he was like salivating to go to Israel?
Are you talking about Zelensky?
Yeah. He was like, no, you're not going to come. Biden's coming. Our biggest donor's coming, to give us another $10 bazillion.
Well, what's funny is that, like you mentioned, he was salivating in front of him because I believe Ukraine even said that they want to send military aid to Israel. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you guys literally like you guys are on the verge of collapse. Like, and you guys don't have a successful counteroffensive. You guys are losing the war, and you guys still want to send military aid to Israel? Are you serious?
Yeah, but they can send some of their very brave NAFO military strategies.
Where's the Reddit battalion when you need them?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you send them. Like, they will take they'll be at the Persian Gulf by the end of August. Like, they'll have a beach party in Qatar. If they just get the NAFO strategists.
Yeah. Let's get the NAFO bots to do all the heavy lifting, because obviously the Ukrainians don't have it in them. So let's get all these Redditors and give them weapons.
Please, 2 birds with 1 stone. You get rid of the scum, send them over to die. Sounds like a great deal, in my opinions.
Good trade, yes. And that's the new military aid from the West will be all the Redditors. Anyone who's ever made a positive.
Else.
Actually, yeah, like they had a Redditor who had to escape from Ukraine because like he saw what war really was, how dangerous it was, how like all of his friends died. So he basically went to like the border of Ukraine and Poland, and he was able to just somehow get out of there because the Ukrainian government at the time was stopping any foreigners who were fighting for Ukraine from leaving. They were saying, no, you put on the uniform, you're fighting for us now, right? And so he somehow was able to cross the Polish border. And then he and his girlfriend did like a GoFundMe so that he could buy like an airplane ticket to leave Poland and come back to America. But this Redditor was thinking, yeah, I'm going to go fight some Russians. Then when he started fighting some Russians, he got scared. He started to run back home.
Well, you have to see, these people's only experience with war is like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's their only experience with war.
I mean, but that's a very realistic simulator.
I know, it's very realistic. They're used to the kill streaks being on their side.
Yeah, like it's almost as realistic as.
They're going to drop. They're going to drop ship some more ammo.
Yeah, they're going to call an AC-130, and they're going to all these other things that don't actually happen in the real military. Yeah. Which I know at least 2 of us in here have military experience. Won't dox. Okay, dox.
Yeah.
Self-dox.
Like,
don't worry, I already self-doxed myself. So.
Yeah, I kind of have military experience. Like, I played Hearts of Iron 4. Like, I'm basically a general.
Yeah, Hearts of Iron 4. It's not that bad. I need to get used to it. I'm still not used to it. I'm trying to kind of figure out, like I'm trying to do like a some kind of rebellion in the Soviet Union.
Did you hear that story, by the way, that like we sent artillery shells that were going to go to Ukraine and Israel?
Oh,
yes.
I didn't see this.
I actually yes, I read that like literally like right before I got into the stream. Like basically, I forgot like how much it was going to be, but like a huge amount of artillery shells. Yeah, they're transferred to Israel, and like Biden's like saying, yeah, we got to worry about Israel first right now.
Yes, I believe those are like NATO 155 millimeter shells, which are basically all the guns we given to them are in 155 NATO caliber. And I don't know the exact number of how much we can manufacture per month.
It's very little. Like like the amount that we can produce in a month is fired in a day in Ukraine. So yeah, very little. In fact, like I think I saw statistics. We only had about 6 million shells in reserve as ammunition stocks. Yeah, I know that the magical number, but there was 6 million shells stored as ammunition reserves for the 155 millimeter, and then we gave roughly 1 million to Ukraine, and it got. Then, of course, they gave more, and the Pentagon didn't want to report on the more that they gave. So then we started buying 155 millimeter from South Korea because we just simply couldn't produce enough domestically anymore. So really goes to show you America's military might when it can't even produce enough artillery to sustain a small country in Eastern Europe.
I mean, a small country like this, it is a medium to large size country.
Well, with their sudden population decline because all their women were
Yeah.
disloyal to their men, in
And-
Left the
Well,
country.
like basically, there are many like people leaving Ukraine. So even before the whole Russian invasion, just go back to 2014 again, right? The same people who started the whole Maidan revolution all of a sudden freaked out when the Donbas rebels started to like gain some traction, right? And they're thinking, oh no, Russia's going to come invade after this. So they just like a lot of them just like left Ukraine and moved to America to be patriots in America. By the way, they left Ukraine to become stronger patriots. And so
yeah.
basically, then Russia comes, and of course, more women and children, and of course, more women leave, right? And a lot of men too. Like a lot of men like escape to Ukraine, and so like the population of Ukraine has been declining even before the war, right? And then you have this war situation going on where like if you look at the videos of Ukrainian soldiers, a lot of them are no longer like guys who are in their 20s. A lot of them are just guys like in their 40s, some are in their 50s now. And Ukraine right now is conscripting certain women.
Didn't they find like a 70-year-old guy on a tank?
Like I will not be surprised. I mean, like because they're trying to conscript women now. Like the women that are still left in Ukraine, they're trying to conscript them as well.
Like I talked to like one of my classmates. He's Ukrainian. He left. His family actually used to be quite rich, and they used to own a bunch of shops in Kiev. But then they all got stolen by corrupt politicians. Like a couple months before the Russians invaded. But then like he has a brother that has some challenges like mental, so both of his parents were allowed to leave, like including his dad. So like if they were, of course they went to go on semester in Ukraine during the war, during the counteroffensive, and his brother had a lot of sickness, and they were very worried that they would be stuck there, because if their brother died, his dad would be forced to join the army. And yeah, like they were like stuck there like for a couple of weeks when their brother was in a hospital.
By the way, do you remember when they were hyping this counteroffensive up like it's the next Call of Duty game about to come out? They were making like game trailers for it. You know what I mean?
Dude, like stop talking about it. We need operational secrecy.
Like I don't think I've ever seen that in the military where they tell you what they're going to do beforehand. You know, because that way
dude,
Putin will be so owned. You know,
dude, like they put their fingers before their mouth and did like shh. So now the Russians can't find out about it. You know, it's literally impossible. Didn't you watch the counteroffensive trailer that told us not to talk about the counteroffensive?
Yeah, I watched all of our military equipment get blown up by artillery in well fortified lines.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So first we send the javelins, then the HIMARS, and then
Leopards,
leopards, then the Challengers. It's
Abrams.
like, yes, well, I think the Abrams like have not really been destroyed yet, but pretty soon, like what's going to be after that, right? Like what's next?
And we send it to them in piecemeal. So I honestly like I know the struggle of the 91 Bravos in the current U.S. military to maintain just our vehicles, let alone if they had like, oh, we have 100 Leopards over here and we have 100 Abrams over there. Imagine just like the logistics chains to keep up keeping those vehicles operational. Which, by the way, military vehicles break down all the time for civilians out there. Like they don't just magically work a lot.
Yeah. Wait, Darth Killun, about what you said about them, the women betraying their men and moving to the West. Like there's a Ukrainian teacher that is like 20 something years old at my school, and of course she's a massive patriot. She says that Russia will collapse in the second the war is over and Putin will fall, and that because they're just so evil, and such an evil structure can never last.
Yeah, so basically, attack the Orthodox Church is definitely not evil, right?
Yeah, and all that. Of course, she isn't Orthodox, but she still thinks that Russia is enemy of Christianity and stuff. Yeah, I can see your face, Alt. Yeah. But of course, I think she's dating a Swedish man, and yeah, like, if I were as her, I would be very worried about all the Somalis that get like very excited to see a new beautiful woman every day.
Well, her problem is dating a Swedish soy boy. So yeah.
Also, I saw this tweet a while ago. It was from a Ukrainian soldier on the front, and he sent this as like a nihilistic tweet because he saw on social media his fiance, who fled the country while then he was conscripted. She hooked up and married somebody in the West. I forget exactly which country, but then he literally said, "I have like nothing left to live for," and then he never tweeted after that. And I was like, I think like a month ago I saw that.
Dude should have just joined the Russian Liberation Army.
I mean, maybe he defected. Like, hopefully, like, pray that he's still alive and fighting for the good guys now.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, like, I just do hope that this law, that if they do pass it, I do hope that there will be a lot of either rebellions or maybe desertions. So,
Yeah, I think desertions would be better because that would strengthen the maybe a rebellion would also strengthen the Russian Liberation Army. If it exists, like I'm kind of 50-50,
are
like
you
it
are you
might
talking
be.
about the Malorosia Liberation Army?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's is that even real? Like
No, it basically it exists on Telegram.
yeah,
So they do make patches. Like they do have someone who makes patches for them, right? But like you could like order them and and put it on
yeah,
yourself
I
and be
know
like,
about
yeah,
all that.
yeah.
Like, but are there actual like? Is there actually a real organization behind it? Because I know that there's that like it's mostly just like PR and that most of them are just spread out. Like most of the guys that use the patches are in a bunch of different groups and they're not really. But
Well,
like,
it would be nice if like someone in the Russian government thought about this. Say, hey, yeah, let's support this and let's create an actual Malorosian liberation army.
yeah, like
Mhm.
that would be really Z if they just sent them, if they just attacked at Chernihiv or something like that with it together with the Wagner and the Belarus and Belarusian armor.
I mean, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say they probably shouldn't form like their own legion and just use it as a morale patch for those those Ukrainians that defect to the Russian army, like like U.S. soldiers wearing like unauthorized patches that are called morale patches. Like a lot of armies like have this. In fact, you can see a bunch of black suns on plate carriers in Ukraine that are their
Yeah,
morale patches.
I
So
sometimes even see it on some Russian soldiers, but it's a lot fewer. Like I saw that
Well,
on one.
like you have that one guy, Machkalov or Machalov. Like he's the leader of the Rusich militia.
Yeah,
So yeah, they have like similar symbology.
yeah, I saw it on a PKM machine gunner
I mean, with this grand
also.
offensive, it kind of reminds me of like the German Kursk offensive in 1943, where you're just like going to suicidally attack this like heavily and fortified line, right, to try to break through, and you just take
Yeah,
horrific casualties, lose tons of
which
armor.
is kind of what Russia is now doing at Avdiivka, but they're actually getting more results. Not it's not as heavy, but it's still they're doing a very large fuck up. Like they should bomb Avdiivka more. Like I think they have like for some reason scaled down the bombardments of Avdiivka, which is retarded.
okay, this is the funny man with a particular sun on his shoulder that that Cassie was talking about.
Now, is this supposed to be the Ukrainian soldier?
This is a Russian soldier. You can
A
see
Russian
it on
soldier?
his
Okay, yeah.
camouflage.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because like when the Donbass situation happened, like a lot of Ukrainians and militia guys wearing kind of similar uniforms. They had trouble identifying
Yeah.
each other.
Oh, which side are you on? I fight for the motherland. Well, which motherland?
Mhm.
What's funny
Which-
is that like basically there's a situation, I forgot which town it was or which village. Actually, I think it was probably in Bakhmut, but it was one of the buildings that like the Russian soldiers surrounded, and there were like a couple of Ukrainians there. And so the Russians tell the Ukrainians, "Hey, surrender," and the reply that they get is, "Russians never surrender." So
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, literally throughout the millennia, like I was telling another soldier today, a U.S. soldier, about essentially the history of Russia, how literally like why the Russians are so martials, because they literally had to fight off the Mongols, the Golden Horde, the Turks, the Persians, the Poles, literally everyone, on all
Darth,
fronts. So.
hey, Darth Killian, aren't you gonna show what I sent? What I sent you?
You sent me another thing? Oh my! Oh no! What? Oh no! I'm not showing that on stream. Nope, not showing that. A tattoo of a black sun on a woman's a part of her body that is inappropriate for YouTube, and actually
Yeah,
just inappropriate. Period, because we're all Christians here.
yeah. It was sent in a Russian Telegram chat, so
Yeah.
like what was it sent to like kind of mock the was this like supposed to be a Ukrainian woman? So
I don't know. It just said it was for. It just talked about the Eastern European like trying to be edgy. So I don't know. It could be Ukrainian or Polish or maybe even Russian.
Yeah. So.
I think, if not get me wrong, Devka is the most fortified town in the entire front
Yeah,
line.
it is.
Yeah, in fact, like let's see. Well, I'm going to try to look up some maps of the current front line, although how reliable they
If I
are.
was you, I would use the Weeb Onion map.
Well, are you privy to that map? And you can just send it to me, and I'll present it.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
All righty, let's open that up.
yeah. But yeah, just kind of stay on topic a bit. I do believe that God will. He's already punishing Ukraine, but like the ultimate punishment will definitely come if Zelensky tries to like sign off on this law and to just forbid the true, authentic Orthodox Church from existing. Oh, there's the map.
Mm-hmm. And I know I'm not technically well. I still submit to one apostolic faith under Rome, and I pray for the reunity of the church again. I just wish that the Eastern and Western bishops would actually talk to each other more often. So, is this where
Yeah.
you're talking about down here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is currently a salient right here. We got. So this is gonna be like mini Kursk. Is that what you're thinking?
Those fields are so mined, it's unbelievable how many mines are in
Yeah,
those fields.
those fields are very mined, but the Russians were able to successfully demine some quite large areas when they attacked north of Krasnogorod.
It's across the
Yeah,
board.
but
So like
yeah,
right here, you're talking about.
yeah, no, north of that. But
Krasnogorovka.
yeah, you see the like weird circle thing.
Yeah.
Well, like the southern, the northern southern part, yeah, there.
Okay.
That is a landfill, and I think it's 300 meters above the rest of Avdiivka. So it's a very important thing, and if that since the Russians captured it now, at least according to this map, and this map is usually right, that is a very large advantage for the Russians in this battle, and that would give them the ability to much easily like attack the coke plant and the rest of Avdiivka from the north. Since the Russians are advancing through the forest south of Avdiivka, the problem is just if the leaves fall off from the trees, then it would be much harder for the Russians to advance in Avdiivka.
Yeah. Which, I mean, most, at least from that picture of Russian camouflage, like it would work. I mean, I just know from my experience using our current uniforms in the U.S. military, like they're actually very effective in wooded environments. But as soon as fall turns around, most green suits lose effectiveness pretty drastically, and soldiers become more visible, which lead to more injuries. Yada yada. I don't. This is like basic stuff that even like a desk clerk in the military will know. Although with some Shaniquas running around the U.S. military, maybe they won't quite know that. But
Here's the thing
But
about
yes.
why this town matters, right? Because it's rubble by this point. It's been like almost 9 years, just like continuous shelling. The reason why it matters is because that's where the artillery is shelling Donetsk from. Is
Yeah,
in
it's
Avdiivka.
only
The
it's
artillery.
only a couple of kilometers away from
Okay.
from Donetsk. It's
From
like
the city
let's
center.
take from the city center of Avdiivka to the city center of Donetsk. It's 10 kilometers away.
Okay. Yeah, so essentially the Russians will be able to, like, how much of Donetsk still needs to be liberated? I know Luhansk is like
Well, like
mostly
so
liberated.
basically, like Donetsk city is like has always been 100% under first the DPR control, the Donetsk rebels control, and then it's still under Russian control, Donetsk city, but the Donetsk region itself, yeah, they have a
It's
lot
like
of work to do.
half. They control half.
Yeah.
Of the old bloc.
But yeah, but most of the Luhansk region, it's basically under Russian control. So yeah,
like 99% under Russian control.
yeah, there's like a
There's
tiny little.
Isn't there that one
smidge
town that like is still for some reason?
Vilo,
Yeah.
Korivka.
Is it this? Is it over
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, this town is like
Yeah.
been like not captured.
Yeah,
for
and
a
on top of
long
that, like
time.
Russians already they're not part. Can you go up north, up north on this map? Is that Kupiansk? Did I see up there?
Yeah, Kupiansk.
Yeah, because it looks like Russia. Well, whoa, did Russians
That's
get?
Kharkiv.
Is
Yeah,
that
there's
Kharkiv?
Kharkiv.
No, Kharkiv's
Yeah,
right there. Can you
that's
zoom in on that?
Yeah, Kharkiv is right here.
Yeah, and can you zoom in on like
Kupiansk. Zoom in on Kupiansk.
It's to the right.
go
the
to
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
go
to the
go
right.
go east.
Tell me which
sir.
direction.
Go to
Okay,
the
right.
east. Okay, so a little bit over here.
And zoom in a bit, right there. Zoom in. Okay, and go down a bit.
Not right there. Yeah.
Go down.
Down.
Okay,
More.
some more. Okay, I don't see it.
There is Kupiansk.
Okay.
There.
Kupiansk.
Okay, yeah,
I
so there's
got to see
Kupiansk.
that-
Wow, Russians got a little bit closer to Kupiansk. Like I thought they're still further away, but wow, they got closer.
Yeah, and the map that the reason he shows here that there's they lost territory in that forest. I don't know. Like that's what Syriac maps reported, but Syriac maps isn't flawless, and they haven't really shown any proof for that.
Published 3 hours ago, so at least if this is accurate, then
Yeah, because like I think I assume
the
Russians were further away from Kupiansk, but yeah, but I guess Russians got even closer than I thought. Because
Yeah.
so they're almost within artillery range, I would think. I'm just guesstimating there.
Well, because if I remember correctly, I believe Kupiansk is also part of the Kharkiv region, like this little little arrow right here. Yeah, it's kind of like the Kharkiv region. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
let's just take the Mista, the 2S19 Mista S. It would be able to fire on Kupiansk from quite like from a quite safe area.
Yeah. I know at least like what's the largest caliber of artillery Russia has? I know it's larger than the 155. It's like one. I know they have a. I know the Russians have larger artillery than 155. If anyone can help me.
I'm not an artillery expert, so I don't know.
I know they have some bigger Soviet guns still in the arsenal. I forgot what they're called though.
Maybe the LAR,
Can we look at Kherson real quick?
like maybe the LAR.
Kherson, direct me.
Yeah, it's the very bottom, very southern part of the front.
Okay, over here.
Yeah.
Okay. So like this region. Oh, Kherson. Yeah, there it is.
Because they were
So-
freaking out earlier about a landing supposedly on the other side of the
Yeah,
Dnieper.
but that's irrelevant.
So it looks like there was a landing like right there.
Well,
because-
what's interesting is that like basically like Russians understand that if they're outnumbered, then there's like no point of holding on to a city and let it be destroyed. Ukrainians, on the other hand, if they hold on to a city, they'll hold on to it to the very end, even if it's rubble. And like I think that's a war crime on the Ukrainian side.
Yeah, wait, I have to say that something that's very important about Kupiansk is that Russia blew up all their bridges from Kupiansk. The Ukrainians are trying to fix that now by, of course, repairing the bridges and using pontoon bridges. But the supply in that area is very strained, and if the Russians were to launch a major offensive and big attack from west of the Oskil River towards Kupiansk, that could be the death blow to the northern front of Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, my question is like just how, like, what's the ammunition situation and what's the morale situation amongst the Ukrainians? Like that's, I mean, that's morale is like how it's literally half the battle for any army, and then the other half is supplying that army.
I was reading like a Reuters reports, and they're saying like the morale is very low because like it seems like the United States is no longer really interested in helping Ukraine that much, and so the Ukrainian military, they also sense this, right? And as I mentioned earlier, that like we now see men who are like in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So yeah. And plus, if we could see the whole counteroffensive failed. So like they promised a major counteroffensive back in May. And
they promised
they
Crimea.
Yes, they promised to get to Crimea, and they did not even move anywhere. They did not really budge. They took over like a small town called Robotino where Russians were outnumbered, and Russians kind of held off for as long as they could. Then they said, "Whatever, screw this town, we're leaving." Right? And then the Ukrainians say, "Oh, Robotino, yay, counteroffensive successful," but it's not a success. Everyone knows it's not a success. It's just a coping mechanism, but there was no success there, and so you could see that this whole failed counteroffensive, like it has led to like this complete
I don't even think they
like
reached their first
depletion
day
of morale.
objective of like Tokmark. That was supposed to be one of the initial objectives, was reaching
And-
Tokmark.
Tokmak.
Yeah,
I
But
believe Tokmark
it-
was the second line of defense from the front line.
yeah, and it wasn't that the Russians just said, "Oh, fuck Robotnia, the Ukrainians can keep it." It was never the plan to keep Robotnia. Like if the Ukrainians were to launch an offensive there, of course they would just leave that when it would be more suitable to fall back to another defensive line. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that Robotnia was a defensive line. It was a few trenches, but nothing more than that outside the city.
and
Or
that's basically
city
the whole.
town.
But that's basically the whole success of the counteroffensive. Basically, like
Was
wait a
right
minute.
here.
So we're supposed to push the Russians back, and you've only just like have this little tiny little town.
They were supposed
I
to
mean,
cut Crimea off. That was the whole goal. The land bridge. They were supposed to sever the land bridge.
But dude, it's
I
still
mean-
possible. Believe in the Ukrainian
Well,
final victory.
here's another thing. Like, and they assume that they cut off like the front line right here, right? That somehow Crimea is going to suffer. It's not, because there's another bridge in the southern part of Crimea connected to Russia. So Russia could just send supplies into Crimea from their bridge that they built. That's why the Ukrainians always want to blow it up too. So like, so I'm just thinking this whole counteroffensive is just stupid, right? So yeah, you cut them off right here. Like, let's say you cut them off right here in the center. You cut Crimea off from supplies. Okay, well, Russia could still continue sending supplies through the bridge that they built in southern Crimea. So
No, but
yeah.
like Ukraine would send supplies because Zelensky just loves his people. It's not like Zelensky made fun of the Crimeans for not having any water on live TV in like 2015.
Exactly. Like, what's interesting is that like before, I think it was before Zelensky became president, but like the Ukrainian government said, "Hey, we'll force the Crimeans to love us. We'll force them to come back to us. So here's what we're going to do: we're just going to shut off their water supply." So like
Yeah.
apparently Crimea was getting like water from the Ukrainian side, and so the Ukrainian government they shut off the water. And I think Putin mentioned this. Said, "Hey, that's like considered genocide." United Nations. So how could the United Nations have sounds about this? The Ukrainian government basically just shut off water for the people of Crimea. And so the Ukrainian government assumed, well, they will love us even more now. Like, we forced them to understand that we're the good guys. No, you shut off their water. They're going to hate you now even more.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Crimea
like,
gets
yeah,
most
like,
of its
like
water
the logic
from the
of
Dnieper.
Ukraine is just baffling.
Yeah, like a lot of people misunderstood like this as the Ukrainians like giving Crimea water, but that's just not true. Like it's a canal that goes there that the Soviet Union built, but it's not like it's costing Ukraine anything to just let that water pass through. And it
Isn't
was
this the reservoir where they drew the water from right here? On
No, I
the
believe it's further
info?
downstream.
it's like that's where the water goes to Crimea.
Mm. Yeah, because
northern
like-
Crimea is semi-arid.
yeah, and like I think, well, little history lesson. A lot of the Germans that settled were around here in this area, where my cursor's floating over.
Tatarstan.
The former, when the Tartars were kicked out.
Tatarstan is in Siberia.
Yeah, I know. I was just
Okay.
saying that's like
Okay.
where the Tatars live.
Oh, like,
in
before,
Crimea.
like before anyone says, "Oh, the Crimean Tatars, they're natives to this land." No, they're not. They're from Siberia. They're Siberians. They're not from Crimea.
Yeah, they're
So Stalin was
literally
just
as
moving them back
natives.
to their.
They're literally as native to Crimea as the Somalis are to Scandinavia.
Stalin also deported all the Chechens during World War II in like one day. 500,000 people to Siberia.
And also the Volga Germans to
Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Volga, it's further east.
Yeah,
guys,
like over here.
Oh yeah,
What would have
yeah,
happened? What would have happened if Stalin deported the entirety of Germany and their Third Reich borders into Kazakhstan?
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
I
Kazakhstan's white population would just be soaring. Like, Kazakhstan would no longer be Kazakhstan.
No, I mean, like they would
It would be a
just
first
deport
world
the
country.
entire like Germany would be independent, but it would just have the land of Kazakhstan, and the entire population would just be moved there. They would just be teleported with the borders intact.
I think I watched that YouTube video that you're referencing. That was really funny. Like, essentially, that would just make the Germans the most resentful people in the world. If they were
should
forced
be
to live
the
with
most
Turks.
resentful people.
I mean, yeah, they should be a bit more resentful than well,
Well,
their government
unfortunately,
forces them not to be
like,
resentful.
unfortunately, like, yeah, Germany today is very, very. Like, no offense to any Germans in here, but Germany today is very, very cucked.
And who forced that cuckery on them? Oh, right, the United States.
What's interesting is it was the Western allies who did this.
Yeah, like East Germany was at least like still proud to be
East Germany
German.
was
I
based,
wouldn't.
and like they wore
No.
the same uniforms, and like if you notice, East Germany never promoted any like wokeness was not like a thing back then, but it was kind of the seeds were there, right? And they're mostly in the West, while East Germany just basically kind of did not have that nonsense.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
East Germany,
Yeah.
they were kind of better, but they were also almost as bad in some regards, like the socialist, the feminist,
Oh, that's so
and
true.
Yeah,
and those parts,
the-
the destroying the demographics, and
well, like
also
this comment
loving
right
Frederick
here.
the Great.
Well, Best
Yeah.
Gamer, he's saying East Germany did not pay Israel Holocaust reparations.
Yeah, okay, that's true. But again, like they didn't, they weren't as like they made some good songs, and they were good at football, but
I
they
mean,
weren't
there's
that
problems with both German states. I agree.
And not only
Um,
problems, both of them are illegitimate and shouldn't be counted as
Well,
real
actually,
countries.
the current German state is illegitimate too.
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
Well, there has been a legitimate German state since 1918. Like, so I
We still
mean, I
occupy
would.
Germany. People will still talk about this.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
Like literally, like I told us, like, I asked this one boomer, like, so why are we still in Germany, right? Because it like makes no sense. The Soviet Union's gone, right? And he goes, well, we have to make sure that Germany will not vote for another Hitler. I'm thinking, but it's their choice. Don't you believe in democracy and freedom, democracy? Like, what if the Germans
No.
vote for a guy like that again, right? It's their choice, you know. Like you're basically going against the principles that you claim to be supporting, right? And you claim to be supporting these principles for the German people, but for some reason you want to keep our base there to monitor their choices.
Yeah, but like all of us would agree that Germany is not really a legitimate state. But I think that we missed the real question about the illegitimate state, which is not Ukraine. It's not Azerbaijan, it's not Palestine or Israel, it's Finland. Finland is rightful Swedish territory, and Russia should give back all former Swedish territory, and then we should
No,
conquer Norway and Denmark.
no, Karelia belongs to the Nords.
Yeah, Karelia, Murmansk, Onega,
St.
all of that.
Petersburg. St.
Actually, I don't know. Like I would argue Senator
New,
Karelia was Russian, and then the Finns were given that
yeah,
by the
and
Swedes. So
it's not St. Petersburg, it's Nyborg. It's the real name.
Well,
Before
yeah,
the
but
evil
basically, but here's
Russians
the thing:
did their yeah,
Russians took over and created a based, beautiful city called St. Petersburg. So.
the Russians did great replacement on St. Petersburg. Like
Just
it's
to be
actually
fair,
Nyborg.
the creator of St. Petersburg also kicked out all the certain 6 million people out of his country.
Yeah, the six Gorillion.
Yeah.
What number was that? This time in history, what number was that?
Well, like
Probably like
I forgot what it was,
500
but it's some
alien.
kind of decree that Peter the Great signed to kick out the ethnic people, the tribal people out of his country. And so, like, I think most of them were exiled to Poland or something like that.
Wait, did you know that? Did you know that actually Jakub created St. Petersburg, and it wasn't actually Peter the Great?
Yes. Yeah. Yakub, the creator of the greatest race of humans. There we go.
Literally.
And the real Germany is the Holy Roman Empire. I do love the First Reich.
I liked
Monologue.
1914 borders.
Yeah, the
No,
1914 borders are also
1918.
nice.
No, 1918 borders are the best before before the fall. But honestly, Crimea. But I mean, Ukraine and Belarus shouldn't be their own kingdoms. They should be a part of a Russian-German kingdom.
Well, like basically, what's interesting is that I tell people in 1917, right? Basically, people in Kiev, in the city of Kiev, never called themselves Ukrainians. Everyone knew they were Russian. And then, then I remind a lot of the so-called Ukrainian nationalists, right? And I'm like, for me, like, if you want to be a nationalist, you have to, like, then your nationalism needs to be historically has to have some kind of historical foundation, and it has to be legitimate, right? Ukrainian nationalism and Belarusian nationalism, they're not legitimate because Ukrainians are simply Russians who were brainwashed to believe that they're a separate
See,
nation,
the
and
Malo-Russian nationalism.
well, like, here's the thing:
This comes
the
from
communists.
Polish ruling Western Ukraine for hundreds
Well,
of years.
Polish ruling, and then the communists, they come borrowed those ideas, and they just said, hey, yeah, let's just kind of create this separate republic.
Belarus has basically never existed throughout all of history. It's the most artificial country ever.
Well, what's interesting is that, like, Belarusian nationalists, when you ask them, like, hey, are you actually Belarusian, or are you a Lithuanian? And a Lithuanian is basically like it's not Lithuanian. It's actually like a Polish person who got left behind in that region when the Russians recaptured Belarus and Ukraine from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And what's interesting is that if you ask them, are you actually Belarusian, or are you a Latvian? And they'll say, yeah, I'm a Latvian. Oh, so you're actually Polish. You're not even Belarusian, but you claim to be Belarusian nationalist. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a part of the Six Gorillion.
Yeah. And also talking about, honestly, like, some of the most like they literally just make up a lot of their nationalistic claims as the Poles. Just saying, like, they're one of the most I don't know what's the right term, but childish nationalists, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, they'll literally just rebel for, like, every time they rebelled against the Russian Tsardom, it was always for, honestly, like, just retarded reasons.
Yeah, like, they should
And-
just admit that Sigmund was their best king and return to Sweden.
Or maybe just that we need the next partition of Poland. What would be the fourth partition? We'll
Yeah.
That would be
Germany,
the fifth.
Germany and
So
Russia.
Germany gets Silesia, and Russia gets Lublin, and Sweden gets the rest.
Okay. Yeah, I also want Silesia.
So
back
Sweden
in
gets
Germany.
Gdansk.
Yeah, Gdansk is rightful
Gdansk.
Swedish territory.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody can claim Gdansk. Literally.
Just make that Poland. Say, okay, Poland, we'll give you an independent state. It'll be right here, Gdansk. That's the only free Poland right there.
General Government 2.0.
But honestly, like, I think that since there's still a Swedish population in Ukraine ever since the, like, ancient Swedish Vikings created a village in somewhere in Ukraine, like, I think that Sweden has a better claim to Ukraine than Russia.
Yeah.
I think we should invade.
Well, like basically, basically the Vikings, they had lots of contact with the Rus people and vice versa. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I think that Sweden
Oh, you want to talk about a
have
fake country? Moldavia is a fake country.
Moldova,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, so here's the
So
thing:
fake.
like, Russians should just take back the Seal region right here. I forgot what it's called in English, but Russian
Transnistria.
Transnistria and Pridnestrovia in Russian. And so basically,
Yeah.
just take over Transnistria and then just give the rest to Romania.
No, they should
Isn't
give the rest
Moldavia
to
one of the most
Sweden.
broke countries in Europe?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it should just be kept right here as like a Soviet time capsule, because it's just, you go back to the 1990s.
What's interesting is that Transnistria, right? They kind of celebrate both parts of their history. Like, they recognize that they're Russians, right? And so you'll see, like, a lot of Soviet imagery, but at the same time, the people are pro-monarchy at the same time. It's kind of interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that Russia as well?
But it's still like, but in Transnistria, it's more kind of united. People are still, like, they're pro-monarchist, but they're not shying away from their Soviet past. But in Russia, it's kind of more like you're either monarchist or communist, right? So, yeah. But in Transnistria, it's kind of like, it's just part of our history, but I forgot the name of this of the general or the military leader in Transnistria, but he says something about they're waiting for the Russian monarchy to return.
So Romania should remain to Dacia, Wallachia, and Andrew Tate land. Okay.
No, Andrew Tate does not deserve.
Yeah,
no.
he's literally a target of TND.
Yeah.
Yeah, T&D, no exceptions.
Yep, he's in that list.
No exceptions except for Dreamable.
Damn it! Now I was about to say something.
You want to talk about Kosovo real quick, since we're near
Oh yeah,
Serbia?
Kosovo.
Oh yeah. Let's go over to this little rump state.
Wait, before we do that, I just got to say that Wagner should be hired by Serbia, and Wagner is pro-monarchy and pro-restoration of the Tsardom.
Oh, that reminds me what I was going to say. In Russia, we need to have like the Hegelian dialectic. Like we have to have the synthesis between the communists and the monarchists in Russia.
Actually, a lot of Russian monarchists, they kind of do have some of that synthesis.
Yeah. So the communists just need to be won over. They need to embrace the synthesis.
Well, what's interesting is that, yeah, exactly. The communists, they don't want to embrace that synthesis, right? And it just makes no sense. And the communists, they don't realize, well, like, first of all, you guys are outnumbered anyway. You guys are the second largest party, but guess what? The third largest party is the Russian
Liberal Party, which is actually monarchist.
The Liberal Democratic Party. Then you have the United Russia Party, which is the first place. And so basically, if there was a civil war in Russia between communists and all other political groups, the communists would lose this time. So the communists simply should just embrace the synthesis, as you mentioned.
Yeah, embrace monarchism.
And don't only the communists have support in the Don region down here? From what I saw, Russian election results.
That's kind of surprising because the Don region is full of Cossacks, and Cossacks were monarchists. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's. Wait.
No, I think the Reds have a lot of support east, like the border regions with former Central Asian, like Russia, Turkestan.
Yeah, it's when I looked it up, it's literally none in the Don region. It's basically only in the east and in the kind of Urals.
I wonder where I saw that, because I did see somewhere that the Don region had an unusually high support for the communists. That might have been a old result or something. But yeah, let's go over to.
It might be a current result too, because times change, history changes. So maybe the Reds took over the Don region finally.
Yeah, well, they did.
The communists are kind of more base. They're anti-gay marriage.
Yeah, but that's united Russia too.
Well, what's interesting is that Russian communists today, they're okay with billionaires existing. So.
And
communism.
I just have to say that in the 2021 legislative election in Russia, the communists won 0 places in the Don region.
Oh, okay.
Wait, can you show this new Russian Volkstrom? It's just kind of funny.
By the way, speaking of partitioning countries, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Kosovo, right? All these areas, Montenegro, all of that should just become part of should be renamed Western Russia, and basically that should be Russia's territory. And basically, the Serbs should basically dominate all these other countries, and if the other countries don't like it, they could be deported somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then Russia should open their border. Yeah, Russia should open their borders to Congo, and they should do free trade, because Russian demographics are kind of bad, so they need more immigrants and strong young men from Congo.
I think we've been infiltrated here.
Dude, what are you talking about? Wait, did you guys also hear about Benjamin Netanyahu and how he's the defender of Christendom, and how the Mossad actually never did anything bad?
Yeah,
wow.
those Judeo-Christian values.
Judeo-Christian,
yeah.
Judeo-Christian
like
values.
Steven Crowder lately. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steven Crowder, but he's been like
Yeah.
pushing hard this whole Judeo-Christian values things
Oh, he's a
recently,
tranny,
and
so
like
it
he's been
makes
coping
sense.
hard. Like basically he's been defending Israel for bombing the Christian hospital 2 days ago, and then
Wait,
like
was it a
he's silent
Christian
on the Christian
hospital?
church. What?
Was it? I didn't know it was a Christian hospital. I thought it was just
Like,
an
No, it was a
hospital.
Baptist church.
Well, I mean,
The Baptist.
Yeah.
well, it's
So-
somewhat
so-
Christian.
They,
but-
they believe in Jeebus at most.
I mean,
According
okay,
to
well,
them.
still closer to us. So, but anyways, but like, what's interesting is that Steven Crowder, like, he's finding excuses for that being bombed, and then like he's been silent on the whole Christian church being destroyed.
Guys, they just shot
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah, but honestly, I think Israel should just carpet bomb the entirety of Gaza and all of this would just be over. Like, I'm so fucking tired of the like Palestinian faggotry. Like,
I just don't want them
guys,
here.
stand
but
with
there-
Palestine.
Do you
there
remember
is a
Nikki
third-
Haley was
there
like,
is a
we have to
third
accept
position
a
on this,
million of
guys.
them?
Yeah, Kingdom of Jerusalem.
There's a third position.
No, I
guys.
well, I have a fourth position. I have a fourth position on this. The Byzantine
Byzantium.
Empire.
Yeah, but I have a
He-
fifth position on this. Byzantine Empire isn't Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire never existed. It's just a Roman Empire.
Yes,
Oh,
true,
yes.
true. Yes.
But then I have a
Um,
sixth position on this, and it's that Jerusalem is actually Polish. But then I have a seventh position on this, that since Poland is rightful Swedish territory, Jerusalem is actually Swedish. But then I have an eighth position on this, since Sweden is a part of the Kalmar Union, and the Kalmar Union is dominated by the Danes, Jerusalem is actually Danish. But then I have a ninth position on this, since the Danish are Germanic people, and the Germanic people are being colonized by the Somalis. Jerusalem is actually Somali territory. But
and
since
I have the next
the
position.
Somali god is Jakub, is therefore, and since Jakub created white people, Jerusalem is actually white. But since all true whites are from Sweden, but not all Swedes are true whites, and the only true whites are Finno-Swedes, therefore it's Finno-Swedish territory. Okay,
Okay,
I
so
explained
I'm
myself now.
yeah, you did. Technically, so the current king of Spain, he actually is descendants of one of the last kings of Jerusalem, so he actually does hold the title King of Jerusalem. So Spain should get in on this action and just invade invade
Well,
Israel.
maybe he should crush the Republicans first in Spain before we.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Imagine this: the King of Spain, like, literally just declares war, right? And it says, "Yes, we're going to save the Palestinians."
we're going to save the
Yeah, like,
Christian
just like, yeah.
Palestinians.
Yeah, but
Yes.
they,
Well, imagine this: like, World War III kicks off simply because Spain decided to declare war on Israel. That'd be so weird.
I mean, would any of us be surprised?
Wait,
I go sign up for the
Darth
Spanish
Killen.
Legion in a heartbeat.
You think Ben Shapiro will be making like 50 videos about Spain being anti-Semitic from the very beginning of time?
Yeah, Darth Killen, can you show me? Can you show
Yes,
the
Inquisition, Inquisition.
I'll show that image that he sent me. Yes.
the three?
Just give me a second.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So here's, let's show the first one.
Chad
Once I
Russian Volkstrom.
Okay, there's the Russian Volkstrom. I mean,
I don't see any
they're big.
diversity here.
Yes.
Wait,
Yeah,
like,
where's
hold on.
the young
This is not
Somali?
right. That's not right. They should reshoot this. They should add like a disabled person in there. You know, they should add, like, have a disabled lesbian as well. And where's the transgender
Hold
women
on.
here? You know, totally not right.
No, but dude, why are you assuming all of these people's pronouns? Like, how do you know that the first person isn't a tranny?
Well, how do you know that human identifies as a person?
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you know that that person identifies as a human?
Good question.
Yeah. How do we know that this NCO isn't a dog fetishist? Like, you know, how do we know, guys?
How do we know that these soldiers don't identify as Ukrainians?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
As fake ethnicity. All right. I'll just go through these images to keep on talking. I'm downloading the
Yeah.
images.
Okay, I just got to say that the Ministry of Defense is kind of sus, you know, the Russian. You will understand when I like these are Russian officers putting medals on some of their other Russian soldiers.
Yeah, the Russians tend to have very incompetent generals, unfortunately.
It depends who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially if they were Baltic German Russian generals.
Well, like one of the best Russian generals was Suvorov. Like never lost a battle ever.
Yeah.
So here's one of the images that Cassie
Interesting.
sent. Very yeah.
and that's in the official video released by the MOD.
Okay.
Is that he just has a rocket launcher in the back?
What's interesting is that like basically in the Donbass region there are like all these like there's like some of these pro-monarchy militias that were formed as well. And then when Russians attacked, right, in Ukraine, so you see these images, right? So you see that Soviet stuff, right? But then you see other videos where you have guys with with monarchist symbols on their tanks. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I think what's going on is that synthesis that you mentioned, like between the communists and monarchists.
The Hegelian dialectic is playing out literally in war. Hegel was right. I mean, honestly, like Hegel isn't. I hate how like normie cons actually attack Hegel because like Marx was influenced by Hegelian dialectics, but like Hegel can be used by the right. Just saying, guys.
When you guys aren't like worshiping Israel for every second.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, like all Ukraine needs to win is the Merkava tank. Like they'll take Crimea by the like if Ukraine gets the tank now, they'll take Crimea by the 20th of October 2023.
Well,
which
what's
for me
interesting
has already passed.
is that like Ukraine just keeps losing all this equipment that's being sent to them, and then the Germans like beg Poland to return some of their Leopard tanks back to them. So
and they gave them like the shitty Leopard 2 tanks,
like their
right?
military.
They gave them like the older model Leopard 2. I forgot which one. Kept the really nice ones.
Hey, Darth Kilun showed this one.
Okay. Just let me. Okay, yeah, that one's acceptable.
Dude, I only sent one photo that wasn't acceptable. I only sent two photos.
You sent two. Yeah, you sent two photos that were
unacceptable. But they were unacceptable for different reasons.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Did you get my Jeffrey Epstein edit?
Yes, I did. There we go. I mean, legit.
It says to those. It says to those who don't remember, we'll remind them. That's what it says.
I saw this funny meme of like a tiger squaring off with a leopard 2, like they were facing each other, and they were saying, grandson, you better get the same KD ratio of Russian tanks that I did.
Yeah, they're really not getting it.
What's the current Russian tank? It's T something, T-72.
What are you talking about? The current what? The most modern tank in current active service.
What's the newest Russian tank? Like
that would be the T-72 Armia.
No. The T-14 is the latest, but it's not in active service. The latest inactive service is the T90M Proriv or something like that. It's a good tank. What I've seen, it's kind of goofy how the Ukrainians keep posting videos of them hitting it with drones, but then it just keeps driving away, and then they hit the same tank with another drone, and it keeps driving away, and they say, "Oh, gosh darn it, we'll hit it next time." Literally in a United 24 video, and they didn't fucking destroy it.
Honestly, this is based. Just
Wait, so that's Europe right there. So where's Finland? It just disappeared off the face of the
no, it's
Earth.
right there. It's right there.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Where my
okay.
cursor is.
There's Sweden and Norway. And I was like, wait a minute, where did Finland go?
But whoever made this, like, they probably were like, "Oh, this is anti-Russia." No, this is just based.
Yeah.
Like the Russians are going to be like, well, we like this image. We're going to keep reposting it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was posted on a right-wing Russian channel.
And then Russian peace. Well, you know, to get peace, you need a little bit of war. You know.
Well, you saw that meme where like there's a bomb dropping. It says, "We will liberate the shit out of you."
Lindsey
Literally
Graham would
America.
approve that message.
Yeah, well,
It-
well,
it's
it was,
kinda
it was,
like
it was an American
when-
bomb. It was like an American bomb supposed to be like falling onto Iraqis or something like that. It says, "We're going to liberate the shit out of you."
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of like when Americans say like, this gun shoots 500 bullets of freedom a second. Rawr.
Yeah, I hate honestly that, like, I'm American, and like if America was a bit more of a respectable nation, I'd be chauvinistic for it. But like I really hate that American rah bullshit. It's just honestly like it's godless nationalism.
Yeah, what do you think about the latest photo I sent you? That's like so easy.
I'm literally getting it ready right now. There we go. Yes.
Oh wow.
based.
Okay. Like when you have time, you should send that to me. Like I love that image.
Based?
Alt-Monarchist, I can send you like 10 of the different ones, like of those. Like I have some very easy posters.
Yes, but unironically, like the West is making more propaganda for Russia than fear mongering, than things to inspire fear.
Like basically, this
Those are run by
images were probably
clowns.
they're probably made by some boomer or something. He's thinking, oh, this will make people hate Russia. It's like, oh
No,
no.
you just need to put Guter Felling in charge of all NATO propaganda. Then it would be maybe a little bit more enjoyable instead of just like
Yeah.
being the Avengers assemble for Ukraine.
Mhm.
See, you're right.
Yes, the Russia will no longer be called Russia; it will be called Z now because of the memes.
Well, you guys seen like obviously seen the letter Z everywhere in the beginning of the war. And then you've seen some units have the letter O, right? And then some units have the letter V. And for a long time, for some reason, like I just never like I never understood like why are these guys carrying the V? These guys are carrying the O. These guys are carrying the Z. And then eventually, like I realized, oh, but like, oh, you combine the three letters ZOV, it's the word Zov, meaning like the call, like the Call of Duty, like basically the call or the calling, right? I'm thinking, oh, okay, like because it threw like a lot of people off. They're thinking, what is Z? Some kind of secret code word, some kind of military, like some kind of like top secret classified military like symbol. It's like no, it's just like thinking, oh, ZOV. Okay, I get it now.
No,
I thought it stood
symbol
for
call.
each group's like region where they were
No,
stationed.
you're misunderstanding it. It stands for Z stands for Zigger, and it stands for total Zigger death.
Okay. But yeah, that actually is
Or
interesting.
so I've been told
was
by
it-
the very reliable sources in the Institute of the Study of War.
Called Telegram.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
Based
So
Telegram.
Telegram has been like basically like the mainstream news and even YouTube, like all other social media platforms, like they're not really giving like proper updates about what's going on in the war in Ukraine. and the best resource of all this information is on Telegram.
Wait, Darth Kilun, I was going to say that.
By the way, do you
literally
remember when Ukraine bombed the
counteroffensive.
church in Donetsk, like last Christmas? They just bombed the church
Yeah,
anyway. They shelled
I'm
it.
remembering that. Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, just more evidence of why the Kiev regime needs to be eradicated.
Yeah, Victoria Nuland's project needs to go.
Fuck the EU.
Well, what's interesting is that like this one boomer, I was commenting on someone's profile, and it was about the Middle East, and I said, like basically, Palestine is resisting like the two bad guys, and implying that we're the bad guys, right? And this boomer woman is asking me, like, why do you hate America? And I'm thinking, lady, I told her, like, well, ma'am, you're confusing government and a country. They're not the same thing, right? So, like, I don't actually hate America, like, because I grew up here. This is my country too, right? And plus, I started in the military, so she says so why do you hate our government? And I said, because I'm a veteran. Like that's my response. So yeah.
Wait, Darth Kilun, what do you think about the thing I sent you?
Oh my god, you're sending me more stuff.
It's just one little
okay.
ISIS meme, but that's literally the Ukrainian counteroffensive and their goals.
Okay. Yeah, give me a second on that. Although, like their goals were a bit let's just say fantastical.
Well, we literally created them. We created ISIS and Assad together. So.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when. Oh wow.
That's the basically
wow.
the Ukrainian counteroffensive.
Al Baghdadi.
Wow. Wow. So that's the current controlled
Who's going to lead the capital?
Wow.
Obviously, there's a little strip of Afghanistan over here.
Or
the Sahara Desert over here.
So they might have a chance.
Guys, Ukraine.
These guys in Africa and these guys in Afghanistan need to kind of, communicate with each other and like start talking about strategy here.
Wait, guys, do we all know the Z ISIS song here?
There's a Z ISIS song. Oh my god,
For the sake of Allah, we will march through the gates to the paradise where our
Assad was more based.
Bro, I love Assad's song. It's pretty based.
Well, I remember when seeing John McCain in person because I used to live in Arizona, and so like I saw John McCain speaking and talking about how he's supporting boots on the ground for Syria. And so I remember seeing John McCain in person like for the first time, and I saw this huge crowd of people there gathered, and they're all kind of quiet, and he's explaining why we should go to war in Syria. And then some kind of Muslim Syrian started speaking, like John McCain brought him with him to kind of defend his position, right? Saying how Assad is bad, Assad is
we're not allowed to have gay rights in public.
Yeah, well, he's hurting us Muslims, so we have to escape. And guess what? Immediately, one old Syrian guy starts screaming at this a Muslim dude who says, "Liar, you're a liar!" And then all of a sudden, it turns out that most of the crowd were actually Syrians. And I was surprised. Like most of the crowd were all Syrians, and they actually showed up to condemn John McCain and to tell him not to go to war with Syria. And all the Syrians that were there, they're all Christian Syrians too. And I was just like, oh, wow. And John McCain did not expect this. He did not expect that most of the crowd would basically be a bunch of Christian Syrians. He thought he was talking to some kind of boomers, questioning him on the whole war situation. But no, it's like a lot of them were Syrians. And that's when I realized, wow, Assad has a lot more support than I thought. And it's within the Christian community. And when earlier in the stream, we mentioned how a lot of the boomers, they talk about defending Christianity, but they totally ignored the Syrian Christians, and they're supporting these. But they're totally supporting. They're supporting these so-called moderate rebels, like these moderate Muslims who support democracy.
That
right?
was just like
Yeah, and it's like, but what about Assad? Assad's actually the only one protecting the Christians there, right? And like, yeah, yeah, Assad's a great guy. So
By the way,
that's
those
my hope.
moderate rebels were literally Al Qaeda, so we were funding Al Qaeda.
Yeah, exactly. And like, on top of that, half those moderate rebels were allies with ISIS too. So yeah.
Moderate.
Yeah, moderate, destroying every parish in their path as well. Totally
By the way, they
moderate.
destroyed Palmyra.
Actually,
States.
I forgot where it was, but did you hear about the parish that was saved because it was spared because apparently I forgot where it was, but somewhere I think it was somewhere in Syria. But apparently, when ISIS was going to this parish, they showed them like the parish priest showed them like this documents with Muhammad's like handprints on it, saying, "Hey, this parish should not be touched." And so ISIS kind of stepped back; they kind of let the parish alone.
At least they honored their false prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
By the way, remember when
Um,
Hezbollah stepped in to save the Christians? That like Christian community that still speaks Aramaic. That was Hezbollah.
No, dude. Darth Killen, why did you show our chat, bro?
Do
I almost
you remember that
almost
tweet
have
of that girl who
literally
was like,
estrogen.
Do you remember that girl who was like, "I'm pro-Palestine, but all my hormones come from Israel"? Do you remember that tweet?
All of our who come from Israel?
Hormones.
Hormones.
Like a tranny.
By the way, all of the hormones come from Israel. To have a pharmaceuticals.
But yeah.
Look it
Goodbye,
up.
everyone. It's 3:40 in Sweden. So
Yes, thank you, Cassie,
gonna
for
leave.
coming on.
Yeah, and Darth Killen, can you add me in a group with Alt so I can send him the propaganda?
Yeah,
Like the propaganda posters I showed earlier.
Okay. I mean, Alt. I don't know if you're on
No,
Discord
he
or
asked
not, but
about
that's
them.
okay.
Well, like we'll figure it out later. Like basically, we'll contact each other.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Bye.
All right. Good night,
All right.
Cassie.
Good night.
Thanks for coming
Good night,
on.
brother.
Good night.
God bless you.
Slava Ukraini.
Okay.
Oh, I was about to say something.
But yeah, so I mean, this is also like something not even talked about, like how essentially Saddam was like the last ruler in Iraq that actually defended the Christians, the Assyrian Christians, and it was like 2 million Christians.
Whoa! Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks now.
Whoa! We're gonna have to step it back, man.
Oh yeah, I displeased our overlords. I must commit seppuku now.
By the way, his foreign minister was literally Catholic. People would talk about that. Saddam's foreign minister.
Yeah, the propaganda minister, the based Catholic in Saddam's cabinet. But yeah, I was like, what is there? Only like 100,000 Assyrian Christians left in Iraq now, when from a population of 2 to 3 million. And yes, the Middle East is rightfully Christian, Clay.
So true.
That's why literally we launched crusades to try to retake it, but unfortunately we were insufficiently pious, and God did not grant us all the victories that we needed.
The problem was we didn't settle the land with Europeans. We took it.
Don't bring up those filthy people, best gamer. God. But yeah, I guess we could also talk about the Kurds, which also they, like, if you're talking about Rojava, they do attack Christians over there, even though supposedly the Kurds are anarcho-communists and are supposed to not care about religion. Yeah, over here they have dwindled the Christian population.
By the way, I think I agree with Erdogan on this. The Kurds are subhuman; they should all be exterminated without question.
Well, like, so from what I understand, there's like 4 or 5 different like Kurdish groups, like, and they're all in like the border regions of like Turkey, Syria.
They're all in that middle region. Yeah.
And so apparently like the most chill Kurds. So when I say chill, like the ones who just don't care about Kurdistan are basically like the Iranian Kurds. like from what I understand, like they're like the ones who kind of like don't care about it, right? About a unified Kurdistan, and the Syrian Kurds, like
They're a
they're kind
U.S.
of interesting.
proxy.
Yeah, well, like yeah, because like they were kind of interesting too, because like the Peshmerga, where are they from? They're from Iraq, right? The
Peshmerga is
Peshmerga.
Iraq.
That's like one of the
they
military
We
are.
units they
supported them
have.
when we were fighting Saddam in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Here's a better display. But yeah, and then the Rojavan Kurds, which are in eastern Syria, the ones
Northwest,
that
yeah.
that no, it's east because they're over here. But the ones essentially like right now, there's a ceasefire in Syria between the Kurds that call themselves the Syrian Democratic Forces, of course, because they have to have a fancy, nice name for America to support. And then you have Assad over here, and then you have like a tiny bit of rebels up here. I think like in
Well,
this
they're
region.
not rebels anymore. They're just proxies of Turkey. Because
Well, yeah,
Turkey
they're-
still occupies a lot of Syria in the north.
Yeah, it's like up here. I think they
They
control
occupy
like,
some
the
border areas,
region.
and the reason why is because again, all of like eastern Turkey is predominantly Kurdish. So that's one of Erdogan's fears is them like uniting because it presents more of a threat to him.
I mean, honestly, if Erdogan was smarter, I mean, he doesn't want like I guess like a Assadian regime to be too powerful, but I think he could save a lot of money and save a lot of his own troops if he just pulled out and then try to get America to not support the Kurds over here and withdraw our special operations forces over there. And literally, if America pulled out, it's
game over
SOCOM.
for them. It's game
Yeah,
over.
it literally would. Like the Kurds would not
Assad
stand
would
a
just
chance to
destroy
Assad.
them within like 2 days.
I think it would probably be like a week, but yeah. And also then Assad would have all of Syria, and then he could finally go after that
that one particular territory.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about it, or else we're called anti-Semites. So, and then also technically the King of Jordan has claimants over literally all the land there. So,
well, he has a claim over the West Bank because Jordan used to own the West Bank.
Well, Jordan used to own also like all of this too, like all the land that the Jews
you mean
took in
Transjordan?
1948.
Transjordan.
Yeah.
Well, technically, the Roman Empire used to control that too. So.
Yeah, well, we can keep on going back in time for claimants, like the Phoenicians. We can go back to them. Who else? But yeah, technically, like let's just give it back to Rome, guys. Like,
did you see the Italy banned synthetic meat today? Talk about a total W.
I mean, that's like a minor. I kind of say like a minor W because it's like they're attacking the symptoms and not the source. You know, it's like
I'll take a win wherever I can get it, though.
Yeah, well, like for example, like the Italian prime minister, like what's her name? Well, of course, yeah. Well, of course, as a woman, at first, like when she was running for like the position, right? Well, it's prime minister, right? In Italy.
Yeah, it's prime minister.
Yeah. So when she was running for that position, she's saying, "Hey, we got family values, like virtue signaling, like she's virtue signaling to the conservative people like us, right?" And then when she comes to power, she says, "Oh, we got to support Ukraine and Russia's bad and evil." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So Ukraine is trying to promote like anti-family values. They're trying to promote the rainbow flag people in their own country. And then I'm thinking, but you ran on, for like the prime minister position in Italy because you want to support family values. Yet Ukraine is against those family values that you're promoting. So that's kind of weird. But then again, she is a woman. So what do you expect?
Also, she was like, "I'm going to welcome all the migrants now."
Yeah, literally. Oh, I'm going to increase visas from let's just say
Libya.
enriching diversity.
Cultural enrichment. Cultural enrichment.
Isn't she the granddaughter of Mussolini, or was that someone else? I'm thinking.
No,
that was someone else. Not a politician, actually, just pop star. Because
No, I believe she
one,
was a politician.
yeah, maybe. Well, okay, Mussolini actually has a lot of grandkids, so I might be just thinking of a different one. So, yeah, and Mussolini is potentially a saint because a nun
So
had a
true.
vision of Mussolini in purgatory. So, well, let's believe in Saint Mussolini.
So true.
Yeah, well, we Orthodox don't believe in purgatory, so yeah.
Well, purgatory isn't like a place; it's just a state before you can go before the beatific vision. So
Bro, why did
his
they
soul's
get rid
being
of its
scrubbed of.
monarchy? That was so cringe, honestly.
America did.
I know
Yeah.
we did, and it sucks.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What's interesting is that like Franco saved the monarchy. So
Yeah, then
He
they
saved
betrayed
it
him.
over here. Yeah, Franco. Like, if this is like kind of like the litmus test for people, like you can generally ask them which side did you support in the Spanish Civil War, or which one do you historically support, and if they don't say Franco, they are your political enemy.
Yes.
yeah. Well, I guess that applies to like any civil war in any country. Like in America, like who do you support in the U.S. Civil War? If they said the North, well, then they're your political enemy.
Yep.
They're a libtard.
Well, actually, for some reason, a lot of Republicans are huge pro Yank.
Because
Yanktar.
Republicans are some of the stupidest people ever. Just being real.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like some Christians apparently support the North too, so it's kind of cringe.
Gross. I don't want to see their theology because it's probably very Protestant, and I call evangelicals jellyfish very openly. So
That's such a great word.
Yeah, I just say evangelis.
Yes, jellyfish.
These are the God's
Evangelis.
Not Dead movie crowd.
Yes, exactly. They're the ones that support Lincoln. The cringe. Also, same if you don't support the Vendée resistance against the French Revolution, you are also an enemy. If you support the 1848 revolution in Germany, you are an enemy. Same with the
Wait, so basically, that's the U.S. government then, because the U.S. government actually, the politicians, they like because Russia sent troops to hold on. I think I'm confusing Germany with Austria right now. But when Austria had their revolution that failed.
Yeah, Russia sent troops to Hungary to put down the Hungarian revolt.
Okay, yeah. So basically, when Russia sent troops there, U.S. politicians wanted to declare war on Russia and send American troops to defend the communist revolutionaries over there in Austria-Hungary. So, yeah. So like,
wow, we've always been gay.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that like during the U.S. Civil War, there were two literal literal communists serving in the U.S. military. They're both generals, and they were from Germany. Two German generals fought in the U.S. military, and they're both communists.
Yeah, I mean, most of the early Germans that came over in 1848 because they fucking lost. Good, thank God they lost. Most of those 1848 revolutionaries found their way over here in like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Not Minnesota and parts of Minnesota. By the way, the Dakotas would be settled mostly by Germans from Russia, just for your different German groups within America demographics.
Is that why they're more based?
Yeah, that's why they're more based. They weren't 1848 revolutionaries like the Germans from the rest of the Midwest here. But yeah, let's keep on going through countries. If you support any Polish revolt, you are an enemy. Any Polish revolt. And then of course, if you don't support Serbia in the Yugoslav wars, you're an enemy. Okay, if you support Ataturk, you're an enemy.
Yeah, if you just support Turkey, you're an enemy. Yeah.
In any context, if you support the Turks, you're an enemy. The list can keep on going on. Same with of course, Russia's like the biggest example. If you don't support the whites,
well, like I would not say the whites. I'll just say if you just support the Russian Revolution and of 1917, because there are two revolutions: the February and the October Revolution. And some people try to make the February Revolution sound better, but in reality, it was just leading to the October Revolution. So I'll just say if you support either revolution in 1917, you're an enemy.
Yes, that too.
I don't understand
actually-
why Russia lets the Central Asian states exist. We should just be annexed. Purely
Yeah.
to get more land.
Well, what's interesting in Kazakhstan, so basically, in the cities, of course, people are kind of fine and normal in the cities, and there's a lot of, like, because Kazakhstan's second national language is Russian officially still, and people in Kazakhstan, like, they just speak Russian with each other, right? And what's interesting is that there's like a fringe minority of Kazakh nationalists, right, who are angry at the Russians for building schools for them and for building roads for them. It's like, okay, well, fine, like, screw you, so you're angry at the Russians for giving you civilization. Yeah, it kind of sounds like, like some like Native Americans would be making some argument. Yeah, like we totally, like, we give you, and this person was saying, yeah, and Russians, you gave us cars, we enjoyed riding our horses, you built roads and cars, and you built schools, we don't need any of that stuff. Yeah.
This is just third world cope nationalism.
Yeah.
By the way, Kazakhstan is still 22% Russian, so it's even more than Ukraine.
And how much of it is German, or were I think
they're pretty much gone, unfortunately.
There were some Germans and Mennonites in Uzbekistan. I was watching a Soviet documentary from the 1960s, right? And the Soviet documentary was talking about who are the Baptists, right? And so, like, it's a Soviet documentary about Soviet Baptists, right? And then they mention the Mennonites, and they mentioned the Mennonites of Uzbekistan, who preserved a lot of their German culture, and they united with the official Russian approved Baptist church. And so I was thinking, wow, the Mennonites of Uzbekistan, interesting. Like, yeah. But Mennonites are still crossing fringe, so.
Yeah, they are. That's like the one part of, like, my people that, like, I disavow is the Mennonites. But it was, like, mostly, like, the Volga and, like, Black Sea Germans that Stalin relocated to Uzbekistan, if I remember right. Yeah.
Germans used to be a sizable portion of Kazakhstan's population. They were like third or fourth, and now they're just like almost non-existent.
Yeah, I think most of them went back to
Germany.
Well, by the way, you mentioned, like, Kazakhstan's population, Russian population is more than Ukraine. We should consider the fact that, like, a lot of the ethnic Russians in Donbass simply became their own thing in 2014. So, like, that percentage of Russians in Ukraine kind of went down. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, of course, Russians took more parts of Ukraine as well. So a lot of those Russians are living in what is now Russia now, no longer Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, of course, just the Ukrainians are just coping and trying to say that
also,
they're on
the Russian-Ukrainian ethnicity in Ukraine is artificial because in Ukraine, just like any former Soviet states, they have, like, two passports: an international passport to travel abroad, and an internal passport, as your ID, right? So Cobb asks you, show me your ID, you just show your internal passport. And in your internal passport has your name, your age, and then it says the city you're born in, and in there written down is what is your ethnicity. And so some of those passports will say Ukrainian, others will say Russian, right? Some will say Tatar. And so I'm thinking, well, the whole Ukrainian nationality is fake anyway. It's fake ethnicity. They're a bunch of Russians anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just like what I know you've made several posts about
who must
about
go?
How who must go, but how Ukraine was, like, never on a map before, like, 1917, pretty much. So it was like Novorossiya.
Ukraine means the borderlands.
Ukraine was basically so the Ukraine, the Ukraine, right? it was divided into like 4 regions. So you had Novorossiya, New Russia, you have Little Russia, which is basically Malorossiya, Little Russia, and then you have the Tarik, the Tarik region, which is basically like the Crimean region right there. And then you've had basically the Galician region, Galicia, which is Lviv and Ivano-Frankivsk, basically the cities that the Poles want to reclaim for their own for some reason. But like if you study history, Lviv was always a Russian city; it was never Polish. So, but Lviv, the whole region is called Galicia. That's Galician Rus. You have Malorossiya, you have the Tarik region on the bottom near Crimea, and then you have Novorossiya, New Russia. But yeah, but like Novorossiya was established by the Russian Empress Catherine the Great, who, by the way, was German.
Yeah, well, a lot of czars were like ethnically more Germanic. Like, wasn't Nicholas II like pretty Danish?
Actually, I think he was full. Oh yeah, because his mom's Danish. Yeah, so
wasn't Nicholas like the based reactionary emperor?
Well, like basically, Nicholas and his family were basically Germanic anyway, and his wife Alexandra, she is from Germany originally. She was raised in Germany, then she moved to England. Was raised by the Queen of England.
Yeah, I think she specifically comes from the Hesse,
the Romans
region right here.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But her first cousin was Kaiser Wilhelm, so yeah.
Well, I mean, also like Nikki and Wilhelm were cousins, and George and Nikki and Wilhelm, all big happy family until the British Parliament was like, no, we have to fight Germany for the GDP. Literally, like that.
Well, let's just say British financial interests and American financial interests, you know, they wanted this war to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, and then also like Nicholas II actually wanted an alliance with Wilhelm II, not with the fucking French and British. Just saying. But the Russian national government didn't like that, so his ministers didn't like that.
Yeah,
like people think that the Tsar had.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, some people think that like Tsarist Russia was like completely like autocratically controlled by the Tsar, but pretty much if the ministers disagreed with the Tsar, like the Tsar was pretty powerless.
Well, it's interesting that basically the Tsar, like, he had a Senate, and like you said, his ministers, right? And what's interesting though is that people forget an absolute monarch is not necessarily this dictator who just patrols your life your entire time, right? Like, he's not giving you a speeding ticket. That's right. The monarch has some time for trivial things like that, right? But that's why he has like ministers Minister of War, Minister of Defense, Minister of the Economy, all that stuff. And so like you said, people think that like absolute monarchy is like this evil dictator who's just controlling your life.
Is that the UK?
This is that Galician that Galician SS member that Canada honored. They're like, oh, he fought against Russia in World War II.
Yeah, what's interesting? What's interesting is like they declared him both a Ukrainian and Canadian hero. Here's the thing. Here's what the Canadian what's his name? Was he the president of the Parliament? Like I don't know what he is. Like it wasn't Trudeau. It was like the one guy who was announcing him, right? So he said he's a Canadian hero. Well, yeah, the speaker. Okay, so the speaker. So he said he's a Canadian hero. Okay, so who was Canada fighting in around that time? Right, and and who's allies with Canada, and the speaker, I'm thinking like you're reading this paper, right, and you're declaring this guy a Canadian hero because he fought against the Russians in World War II. Gee, I wonder who's Canada fighting in World War II? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of historical, just literacy would have alerted them immediately of what man they invited into their chambers. But no, everybody's like, history doesn't
Bro,
exist
I've never
to these
seen a
people.
nation as retarded as Canada. I'm sorry. Like, I've never seen such retardation in like Clown World in one image.
So like
You know,
we're only like in second place. So
yeah, I mean, it's sad because Canada was founded by the American loyalists to the crown, and then they just got dominated by the revolutionaries eventually and made retards. But this is the show I was talking about earlier, Fall of Eagles.
oh,
where-
I really hate this show. I hate it so much.
You do? Like, which aspects do you hate of it?
Basically, like the Russian history aspects. I'm thinking none of this is true. Like especially like when you portray Lenin as this.
Yeah,
Wow.
the Lenin episodes are pretty cringe. I will
His
agree
name was
there.
Bronstein. His
Yeah,
real
his name
name.
No,
was
that was Trotsky. Trotsky was
well,
Bronstein.
Trotsky. I mean, certain portions of the show are like really well done, but I would say like their depiction of the Habsburgs is pretty inaccurate, at least to the relationship between Elizabeth and Franz Josef, and then and then the Lenin episodes are pretty bad, but I would say the episodes depicting the Hohenzollerns are actually pretty accurate. And actually paint them although they do a character attack on Wilhelm II later.
Well, like for me, I'm just like really picky about like the West depicting Russia, and I'm just like I cringe a lot whenever I see it.
Hey, what about this scene? This was pretty base though.
Okay, yes, but still, like the problem is that like eventually, like at the end, you start to realize, oh, the revolution was probably justified, maybe, because the Russian people, like they need some kind of justice for the workers. The workers are not being fed.
Yeah, that was that whole plot arc was pretty cringe. Yeah. I mean, it's
like
like all
have you
those
seen like Nicholas and Alexandra?
Nicholas and Alexandra. I've heard of the show. I haven't watched it.
No, it's a movie. It's based on a novel of the same name, I think. And the problem is, like, I tell people that movie's not historically accurate, and they say, "Oh, it is." I'm like, "No, it's based on a novel," and so yeah, people just don't get it. Like, for example, like the depictions of Rasputin are just horrible. Like, there's a Soviet film called Agony. It's about Rasputin. And I'm thinking, oh wow, because I watch other like Soviet films about like the Russian Tsars, and they're pretty like fine. They're pretty neutral, right? And of course, there are some Tsars that the Soviet films praised, like Tsar Peter the Great, Catherine the Great, like Alexander the First, Alexander the Second, and of course, but when it comes to like Nicholas the Second, a lot of Soviet films would kind of be like like neutral, or they portray him as kind of weakling. And then you have this film Agony come out. It's about Rasputin, and it's just a horrible, horrible film.
I also know, and then of course
like,
there's like
the reason why it angers me is because it was not a Hollywood film. I'm thinking, really? It's like, you guys, you have the source material. Why are you guys doing this? Like, this is not even a Hollywood movie.
Well, if it's the Soviets, I mean, they still kind of had to justify the Bolshevik Revolution, at least in their internal logic.
True, but still, I'm thinking like I think with the film Agony, they went a little bit too far in that one.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, and then of course there's the Kingsman depiction of Rasputin, where somehow Rasputin's like doing martial arts.
I hate that movie. Like, I saw it in theaters, and I was just like I was so angry. Like, when I walked out, I was just like, no. Like, they totally disrespected both monarchies, like the German and the Russian monarchy. And of course, the English are the saviors of the world. Of course, they're the heroes. The Angloids are going to rescue us.
Yes, the Anglos spreading their, quite frankly, Jewish spirit ways about them. Always, I don't know. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention. I was about to say like, oh, if you don't support Charles I against Cromwell in the English Civil War, you're an enemy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we see what England is today. Well,
yeah, I think Charles I probably would have restored absolute monarchy if he won the Civil War.
Yeah, I bet that's actually like just a for sure because the Parliament proved themselves to be traitorous swines like they always are. So,
well, like a lot of people forget that like the English Civil War actually took place in America too, and mostly was fought over in like New England area. And unfortunately, like the American parliamentarians won as well.
yeah, well, I mean, most of the Oliver Cromwell had
well, it
the
was
support of the
coordinated with
Puritans.
religion as well. America was very Protestant.
Well,
That's
I mean, all of England was technically Protestant, but it was like Charles I was like essentially like leading the Apostolic Anglicans, which they were tacitly trying to realign with Rome and give up the Protestant revolt. And then Cromwell was like, no, leading like the Puritan Low Church Protestants. That was pretty much the religious
do you think
divide
he
in
would have
that war.
supported Israel if he was alive today?
He literally reinvited the Jews into England. Like he literally did. Like Cromwell, I think it was like one of the first decrees he actually did when he was what was it,
Always
Lord Protector was his title.
Well, what was funny is that like people say, "Oh, he was not interested in power. He did not want to be a king." I'm thinking, but he was called Lord Protector. So, and as Lord Protector, he also like disbanded Parliament. I'm thinking, wait a minute, didn't the king do that as well?
Literally, like at the end of the movie Cromwell, like literally that's like the only, most people only know Cromwell from that movie. He literally does that at the end like of the film, and it's like, you're supposed to like this guy? No. It's like the film writers unintentionally shot themselves in the foot by depicting that scene of him, that act that he did, because it destroys the narrative of Cromwell being a good person, which they were trying to depict in that 1970 film.
I mean, I do like some of the battle scenes they portray in the movie.
Yes, and how Cromwell was a dishonorable fuck on the battlefield. He was like, "No, we're just gonna attack now. Even though we agreed to
he's not
attack
following
later."
orders. Yeah. Honestly, like, because I I don't know like the real details of the real battle, like the first one, but in the movie, like like you mentioned, how he's like being dishonorable, right? And so I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, like, hey Cromwell, I think you guys lost the battle because you're being impatient and not following orders, like so. Yeah, but again, that's the movie depiction, so I don't know how accurate that was, but I'm thinking, yeah, like, dude, like you literally lost the battle because you were not following orders.
Yeah, the movie, it is inaccurate. I mean, Apostolic Majesty made a documentary on this on YouTube. I really recommend Apostolic Majesty if you're gonna listen to a YouTube historian that's actually like
He's
pro,
the only
like
good one out
reactionary.
there that isn't like gay or like shittles for
Yeah.
Ukraine 24/7.
And what's his name again?
AE.
Apostolic Majesty.
Yeah.
Apostolic Majesty.
Yeah, he's really good. But like the actual battle, like Cromwell actually showed up late to the battle in reality. And he didn't partake into the battle until it was like partway through. So the movie is not accurate in that case. They're just portraying a narrative of him.
We again in the Civil War see the divide between England, North versus South. With the North supporting the monarchy and the South being gay, globalist, which
Yep.
makes sense because it's controlled by London. So,
the city of London, plus also East Anglia over here was mostly Low Church Protestant. Same with London itself, and that's why they supported Cromwell in the Parliament. And then most of the High Church, like the ones that stayed Apostolic, were up here in the north. So that's why they supported the monarchy. Same with the Irish; they remained loyal to Rome, while then the rest of England split from Rome. But they sided with King Charles I. And I don't know about Wales exactly where they sat, because Wales was part of England at the time. I'm not the greatest on the English Civil War, let's just say. I'm smarter than the average bear, though. And then, of course, well, and then Scotland also, because Scotland was a separate kingdom, but it was also Charles I was Charles IV of Scotland. So he Scottish troops assisted against Cromwell.
Yeah, because but didn't the Scots turn on him like near the end of the first Civil War or the second Civil War?
It was the Presbyterians that would instigate a revolt, and they would support Cromwell. Of course, low church Protestants at it again. So,
But wait a minute, aren't Presbyterians kind of high church Protestants?
they're like low church with high church like theology,
Government.
essentially. Yeah. So yeah, Presbyterians are like just this weird like middle ground Protestants.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that when I was researching like that one event that happened in France, the Saint Bartholomew massacre, and I was watching a Russian TV series. It was a mini series based on Alexander Dumas' book Queen Margot, and so there's a scene where the Catholics are killing the Protestants, right? And then like one of the Protestant leaders, he jumps out the window, he's outnumbered, and then like then his Protestant friends show up out of nowhere to save the Protestant leader, and you hear someone screaming, "Kill the Catholics!" And the Catholics get their butts beat, and the Protestant leader escapes, right? And so when I was younger, like I just loved hearing them scream, "Kill the Catholics!" Right? But then when I became Orthodox, that scene, I'm like, I don't feel that way anymore. Like I'm like, the Protestants kind of got what they deserved.
Yeah, the narrative shifted in your head, and yeah, a lot of people go through that. I'm a cradle Catholic, so I never had that dilemma. But I know a lot of Protestants that
to be fair,
either.
the Bartholomew Night massacre, like it was not even supposed to be a massacre. That was something that went out of control. Because like the leaders simply just want to arrest some of the local Protestant leaders, and that's it. They just want to kill them. But then like the mob just went crazy, and they took advantage of the whole situation. They just started murdering random people. They even murdered fellow Catholics. So basically, let's say I owe you a debt, right? And I'm thinking, hey, I could just get rid of you and like not owe you any debt anymore, right? So I'll tell my friends, hey, that guy's a Protestant, kill him, right? So like they'll like kill you, right? And so yeah, like a lot of innocent Catholics were murdered by other Catholics as well. So it's kind of like so it was not supposed to be a massacre. It was just supposed to be like it just went out of control. It was just they were supposed to knock out like a couple leaders from the Protestant movement, and that's it. Like it was not supposed to go the way it went.
Yeah. To answer this president, I mean, so I submit to Rome spiritually, and being a monarchist is like one of the many stances that I have. I mean, I more consider myself a reactionary, and if you're a reactionary, you're just naturally support monarchy as the default form of natural governance. But then I know alt-monarchist, you're Orthodox, so you're, and then I know you're.
Yes, so like I basically like politically, like, yeah, what are you?
I don't know what I'm at. At the moment. Kind of in the middle ground right now.
You support generally dissident ideas.
Yeah, well, basically, like I was like, yeah. So I'm an Orthodox monarchist. So religiously, spiritually, I am an Orthodox Christian. But when it comes to politics, I always choose absolute monarchy because, like, there's like no human government on earth is perfect. There will never be a perfect government, but the best government is always a monarchist government.
And always remember this: like in heaven, it is a monarchy; in hell, it is a democracy.
So true.
So, yeah. But any like kind of wrapping up remarks? I know we've been going for like 3 hours.
I'm just going to say that Ukraine is going to Ukraine has to repent for all their crimes, and Ukraine is going to lose if they don't repent, and God is going to punish them if they don't stop this legislation that's about to get passed. If they get it passed, I believe that they're going to suffer a lot more. So because they've already been suffering, they've been suffering since 2014. Then 2022 happened with the Russian invasion, and then what do? Do they repent and ask God for forgiveness? No, they just attack their own churches. So unless Ukraine repents, Ukraine is just going to suffer. And so yeah, and screw the Ukrainian government and screw Zelensky. And I just hope Ukraine loses this war. And that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, but before AE goes, I'm going to just quickly answer this. So, the reason why monarchy is demonized so much is because post 1917, liberal democracy reigned itself supreme across the world and shaped the narrative towards their own ends. So, they had to legitimize themselves by demonizing any other form of government that isn't a liberal democracy.
So I take a similar position to Mr. Alt-Monarchist on Ukraine. This is divine punishment, and you can just see by their leadership that that's already a punishment, being led by a foreigner, absolute clown foreigner who has no regard for their lives, because again, his people are in another country, and it's quite clear that he doesn't give a shit about them. This is why "to the last Ukrainian" has been the catchphrase for this Zog war, pretty much. So I have nothing but contempt for this guy. Unless Ukraine repents, they're going to be destroyed by Russia or conquered. And that's all I really have to say about him and this current false state of Ukraine.
Yeah, I generally have the stance that I hate the idea of Christians being sent to kill each other by let's just say unchristian elites.
Foreigners.
Yeah, and a certain ethno-religious group that sends Christians to fight other Christians or to prop up their own interest. But I genuinely pray for this, and also we have to remember what Revelations 3:9 said about Zelensky and his tribe, and just remember that line, and remember that God uses demons to punish us when we sin. That's why possessions happen. Like the exorcists talk about this, how demons are the slaves of Christ, and guess who certain ethno-religious groups serve, according to literally St. Paul, but then also St. John and several other saints and pontiffs and bishops. So and if you just read the Talmud, you'll know the opinion of that group about anyone who's not a part of that group. But yes, I genuinely pray for our fellow Christians in the Ukraine. I pray for them in Russia. I pray for them everywhere. Let's also in Armenia, the Assyrian Christians in the Middle East, the Jerusalem Rite Christians right now in the Roman province of Palestine,
and the Gaza Strip too.
That's part of the Palestine, though.
Part of the Roman province of Palestine that's currently occupied by an enemy force. Or the Kingdom of Jerusalem if the King of Spain gets involved, which, I mean, we could pray that a Christian monarch would actually, go defend Christians and actually perpetuate our interests. But that's something that we can only pray for, and we most likely won't see. But yes, just keep them in your prayers. Pray for the end of the war, and pray that the Christian side wins out. All right. Any other remarks? Any shillings?
Oh no, I'm good.
No, you don't even want to show your own channel?
Oh yeah, so sorry, like I'm just getting a little tired. Yeah, so if you guys want to go to my YouTube channel, it's Alt-Monarchist. Sometimes I'll do a live stream. Sometimes I'll just upload a regular video that I'll edit. And so if you go to my videos on YouTube, I also have a Patreon channel, and I do have a merch store. So if you guys want to buy some merch to support my channel on YouTube, please do so. And so like the links to my merch store will be in my videos if you go to my YouTube channel. So just check it out and support my channel.
I'll also add links to both Alt-Monarchist and A's channel. I'll edit it here after the stream and put it in there.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, subscribe to my channel because it's good, and I get high IQ people on my show, and I make videos sometimes, which is very smart. And you should definitely check that out. So please definitely subscribe and watch my content when you get the chance and ons.
All right. Well, thank you to my two guests that stuck around, and also Cassie, who lives in Sweden, and it's currently like 4 a.m. there. So thanks to him, even though he's not here. Again, please like, subscribe. I know I'm irregular with my content, but hit that bell so you actually know when I upload and do streams. All right. Good night, all.